Are we ready? Father God, we just come to you in the precious name of Jesus. We ask for wisdom for City Hall and for the mayor and the vice mayor and the board and the council and each department here, for the police and the fire department and code enforcement. And we just thank you for all the stuff that you've been doing in the city. Lord, we know that there's a lot coming up that has to have decisions on it. But together as a team, Lord, they're going to make the right decisions with the lawyer and the board members here to be able to listen to the people and see the needs of the people and address it, and then make decisions with their finance and budgets that Rachel does a good job with. We thank you for that. So I will pray into this here, that we got some stuff here that we need to cover, and it would be talking about the police vehicles that they need, stuff for the fire department, and also affordable housing is on here, and we know this is an area that can develop with redevelopment and businesses and all these things that are coming up. So Lord, just give them wisdom and counsel as they work together and make decisions to keep the costs low. And we just thank you in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Madam Clerk, you take roll, please.
Mayor John Erickson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Todd McClary.
Here.
Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
Councilwoman Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman Bill Colombo.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
Interim City Manager Sal Carey.
Here. Thank you. Looking at approved council minutes, we have two sets. We want to do them separately or together. I do got a comment on the second set. Let's do the first set, special meeting minutes on 8/31/2023. Look for a motion. Second. A motion, a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On the second set, there was one thing I wanted to point out. What's on the speeding, I want to discuss that. It says here, the council had a continued discussion on speeding concerns in the city. The council agreed by the majority to hold a future discussion on speeding concerns in the city. That was not the recollection I have. I think we decided not to do that. You guys weren't, I mean, I'd be happy to keep it this way, but that's, I think you guys did not.
Yeah, that I believe is correct in that we decided not to look at it any further.
Correct, yes. I mean, I was disappointed in that, but that was what the decision was, so that needs to be reversed there. So look for a motion with that change.
Motion to approve minutes of
9/12.
with the modification.
A motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on with comments to the general public. I've got a few sign-ups. We'll start with Danny Fields. Welcome.
My name's Danny Fields, and my address is 8114 Leo Kid. And I just want to thank you guys again for your service, and we do got a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to be doing Care Fest in the park, Waterfront Park. You probably received this letter. I did have Ashley put it on your desk, so you already know that. You're welcome to come to that on September the 30th. We'll be there at 8:30. And then we'll be back and we'll go do the jobs at 9 o'clock. And there's about 21 that we got adopted out through different programs to be able to go help the community. So it's the church. And you guys, if you want to show up to that and be involved in that, we could send you out cutting grass and doing gutters and stuff like that. But so...
Sound like my wife.
Need. So it says when you help the people, we could tell them we care for them, and I'm not throwing rocks at you, but saying when we do that, we show them what we care. So that's what we're supposed to be as Christians, to be let our light shine. So we thank you for City Hall. So then we'll be back there by 12:30 for lunch and 1 o'clock. And so also tomorrow at Light of the World Tabernacle right over here on Leo Kid, we have pastors luncheon where we have different people come together and pray. community leaders and other leaders, and like we had Doug Stringer here, and he does ministry for relief all over, and we know we've had a storm come through here, so it's all about building bridges, making connections, and see how we could work together as a faith-based church and the community with government. And then, like I always say, we're a place where we live, work, and play and pray together and encourage one another and help one another as citizens of Florida and of Pasco County, especially here in Port Richey. So there's a lot of good things. We have the Faith in Blue devotion. We're going to be getting the fire department, first responders, the ones that want it. We mentioned that to you before. Faith in Blue is coming up. Also, this is just going to be for the police department to be able to have them some food and stuff so they can enjoy and just celebrate them for what they do. And later on, we're going to adopt some more programs like that with the fire department to be able to honor them and other works that we got to do in this community to give thanks to you for all that you do. I know we got a lot on the agenda, so I don't want to take up a lot of time. And so I just want to thank you and let you know you're welcome and hope to see you there. We got a lot of good things are happening, and so we're stepping up. I see City Hall working good together, and the community, you're listening to them and getting a lot of feedback. I definitely noticed the mayor listens to the needs, and if it's got to do with traffic lights or with speeding and stuff like that, that stuff is being addressed to you guys, and the people are noticing it. So thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Right on time. And I apologize, I jumped the gun. We do got something new I want to read to you all. That we're going to try to do this before a council meeting, just to remind everybody. But public participation is encouraged. If you're addressing the council, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. For public comments, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. For comments on action items, please limit comments to 3 minutes on the current topic. Please limit your conversations while sitting in the audience during council business and silence your cell phones so as not to interfere with everyone's ability to hear the comments of both the public and the council during that time. Thanks. Next up, I have Pat Rogers. Welcome.
Good evening, council, mayor, attorney, and all the wonderful staff. I just want to thank everybody for all they did after the storm went through and the cleanup detail. I know your public works guys were working really hard, and they were very generous with their time. So we just want to give them a lot of accolades.
Next up, I have Pastor Leonard Lord. Welcome.
Lord, I pastored 8114 Fort Leo Kid Avenue, and again, I want to echo what Pat said. Just thank you for all you do and working together. And Mayor, just thank you for fresh vision. I think things have been going good. One thing I did want to share with you, the mayor had made a comment about volunteer help, and I don't know, this kind of hit me, but I stopped today after I picked my son up from school. I got 3 drinks and 3 big burgers, and it was $31 and something. And I couldn't believe it. Like it used to be $12. So with that kind of inflation, the mayor had mentioned, finding qualified seniors that now were able to serve and help. And he talked about that. And I just wanted to enforce that in that when I was a chaplain for the sheriff's department for a season, I was assigned to the citizen volunteers, and we would meet once a month at Safety Town. They had the different officers bring them up, but they volunteered, and I'll tell you, they took a lot off at the things that's, when accidents, directing traffic. Pat had some come out, do some paperwork on titles and things. So it's a great idea, Mayor, and I believe with what we're running in inflation, I think particularly with Christians that really have no agenda but to take their talents and help the city and put into it, it's something to, talk about and think about. So I think it's a good idea, fresh things happening. Appreciate y'all here, a lot of wisdom for you, and I'm just honored to be here and keep serving and want to thank you. All right?
Thank you, Pastor. Next up, Dave Mueller. Welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. I just got some observations. We just recently came through a lot of damage to homeowners, residents, and businesses. With that being said, I'm wondering if there's any relief that we can get from FEMA or wherever as a result of all the additional workload that's going to be placed on our building official to address a lot of these improvements or repairs that are going to be requiring permits, those kinds of things. So essentially, his workload is probably going up as a direct result of that storm. So is that a additional expense that we can somehow address that through some other means there? Just an observation. Also, I sent an inquiry into the state of Florida about the toll-by-plate device. Haven't received a response yet, but potentially this could be used as a mechanism to collect at our boat ramp with no hands involved, to charge fees for an in and an out for the ramp. I know I had some discussion with some friends of mine that they charge $25 in, $25 out, an additional $20 to park a trailer at a boat ramp in the Keys. So this is something that, if we're going to do that, and there again, I haven't really been able to come up in my mind how that can really be addressed effectively, other than with that toll by plate. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do a due diligence to determine whether that cost for billing and all that is going to outweigh the cost of what we're bringing in. Also, I noted that the calendar hasn't been updated for November. I mean, not November, actually not November, but also October. And just wondering, I know that there's some agenda items next week that should be out there. I don't know whose responsibility that is, but I just want to call their attention to it. And as far as the CRA grant handbook hadn't been updated, I saw that there was should be some potential effort to get that up and running. I believe there's only like 2 changes there, and then the commercial side as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any guidance on FEMA reimbursement? You guys, any news on that?
Currently, we're working with FEMA to, from what we know is that Pasco County state of emergency may be lifted by October 1st. Once that happens, we'll have to follow suit. So that will entail pretty much any work that we've done up to October 1st. So I will check with our grant coordinator, who is who's basically working with FEMA about that, to see if there's any assistance after the fact for the Development Services Department.
Okay, thanks.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, he's his own budget, so theoretically the permit fees would cover your work, correct?
Very true.
So he's covered through permit fees. More permit fees, more him.
Last I've signed up is Donald Cadle. Is that right? Welcome.
Adel, 7706 James Clark Street, Borichi. Wanted to ask you a question on James Clark, where your boat club is. The about 2 or 3 feet that adjoin the west side of the road, is that private property?
I'd have to look into that. I don't have that answer right now.
Okay, because there's a city water main and power lines that run through the area, and I haven't been able to find any records where it was private ownership, and there's a private property sign that's there on that portion. And that's also what I brought up before, where I've had the issue with the fence blocking the access.
Have you all set up a time? Maybe.
We've talked with that. I've also talked with Development Services on that fence. I mean, the fence is pre-existing. We can't order that fence to be removed. Now unless the owner needs to redo that fence or rebuild it, then that's when we can address the issue. But where the fence is basically where the fence is. We can't impose them to take it down and relocate it. Up until the time, if that fence becomes unusable or they need to replace it, then the building department can, explain to them where the easements lie and what the new code is. But I've had this discussion with them a few times, and I believe that Veronica has also spoken to you on it as well. The current location of that fence.
Correct. It hasn't been there more than 5 years. The city was aware of it prior to the new owners, and was told by Veronica that once it changed ownership, they would be required to bring everything up to code. And now I'm being told that's not. And the other part of that is, what about, how do they have access to the city property and not pay taxes on it?
Well, I don't think we should get into
Yeah, no. Let's set a meeting with Sal. You can copy me on it and make sure.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to include you on it if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
And then the second part I have is just the code enforcement too. It just seems to be a selective enforcement on it. There's a building at the end of Bailey, 5411, where the power mast is leaning quite a bit. Looks like it's unsafe. There's also rebar in the block that is rusted out. It smells pretty bad of mold and mildew, and I'm certain that it had flood water, river water in there. But I see other buildings around that look in much better shape that are condemned and have signs up on them.
Yeah, we draft an email, Sal, copy me, and put all that stuff in there, and we get you some answers on it. Okay. Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Don. That's all I have signed up. By show of hands, anybody else like to speak? Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move on to comments from the city manager. You submitted yours beforehand, so
Yes, I submitted my report to council through email. If anyone from the general public would like a copy, they can reach out to the city clerk. Because especially that we have 3 meetings tonight and the long agenda that we had, I didn't want to go through the report reading this all to council. But it will be available to the public if they need it. And if you had any questions on a document that I sent, I stand for your questions.
okay, council, that's okay, correct, to do this? Okay. Okay,
I like this, even if you do talk in the future. That's,
yeah, this is nice.
I like that.
Okay.
Moving on to comments from the mayor and city council. I'll start my right this time. Councilman Consell?
So as y'all remember last week, we had a manatee that was stuck to one of our culverts, and watching the city come together to do that rescue operation to include our fire department. I was very, very pleased with the fire department. In fact, I was impressed with our fire chief that when FWC arrived, the manatee rescue group, he brought the team around and said, guys, here's our learning experience, and brought them around so they can learn what they need to do going forward. So it was fantastic seeing everybody come together. Pat Morris from Suncoast News, thank you very much for the article. That was a great article. And just one thing, I'm just throwing this out. On Grand Boulevard right there, south of 19, north of the fire department, possibly could we get manatee crossing signs on Grand? No one takes me serious. No, but seriously, all seriousness, my concern and turning to our city manager, that little guy came up. Yes.
Well, I wouldn't say little guy. Let's keep little guy out of that. And
Okay, 600 pounds.
this is addressing our drainage as well, because I would like to say that if that little guy made his way up that far from the bridge to that point on Grand Boulevard, during high tide, I would like to say that our pipes got to be pretty clear for him. So, but I like to echo and commend everyone that worked on that. As far as the website and Facebook, we've never had. It's one of the biggest hits on Facebook and the website. I think everyone did an excellent job. It was a group effort by FWC, the fire department, and the Florida Marine Aquarium. They all did a great job, and I thank everybody for it.
So going to my question, that one culvert right off the river, and again, I'm just, to prevent this from happening again, is there a way to put a pipe across there to keep something that size from coming up? I mean, we had a very positive outcome. If that guy got stuck there and died there, I don't think we would have the same publicity.
No.
So I'm just wondering if there's something that we could do to prevent something like this from happening again.
That situation is a double-edged sword. If you put up a grate or a pipe and then something else obstructs that drainage system, because it's a very important system, then we have that to worry about. But we can look at, I'll have to contact DOT because most of that is all DOT structure and see what they want to do, if they're willing to do something or what their suggestions would be. I would recommend, we can
Can we
contact
do
them.
that?
Sure.
And just yesterday, at that same spot, they had a 5-foot alligator there. So I guess it's a very active location for the sea critters.
And you need to have 2 signs. One alligator, one
A wildlife crossing, how's that?
traffic light.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McClary?
The only item I had was actually based off of the comments. One of the comments, for those who don't have it in front of them, Development Services Department is collecting information to resubmit for reevaluation of the city's CRS community rating system to qualify for a 25% discount on flood insurance premiums versus the current 15%. What do we think is our feasibility for getting that decrease, I should say, and what is the time frame for our citizens?
Half Associates just provided us with a vulnerability assessment that we're going to use towards our point system. We only have, Mike, if you could help me, I think it was about 200, in the realm of 225 points that we have to meet up with.
211.
About
211 points
Thank you.
will drop us from a 7 to a 6, which will give us an additional 5% off on the values. We're also looking at another scenario that'll drop us to a 5, which will take it to 25%. That's still in the works. It's got a lot to do with the GIS maps, and FDEM and I are working on an ordinance that's going to change our 1 foot of freeboard above base flood to 2 foot. By doing that, we should come up with about an extra 600 points, and that should drop us to 5. It's still in the works, but the one that we're working on now is to at least drop us down to a 6 to get us the extra 5%.
Great, looking forward to that, because that's big savings.
And they've asked us, they told us that we can, as far as timeline to resubmit, is it X amount of time to get that in?
No, we can submit it every year. They just don't do the visit for every 5 years, but we can still continuously try to improve those numbers as we go.
So Halfa is the company that did the resiliency presentations about our 500-year, 100-year flood plain. They're also helping us with the GIS mapping and the vulnerability assessment, which with that combined is going to help us reach those points. So we're currently actively with Tammy Vrain, our planner, and Development Services, and Halfa Associates. So we're really diligently working on that, especially with this coastal flooding that we just experienced. I'm sure within the next couple of years, rates will go up again. So we're trying to get this discount as quickly as possible.
When is that 5-year, when they actually do the adjustment? I thought we just passed that.
We just passed that.
So this, whatever we do now will take effect for another
No.
4 years?
We could do it every year. We can submit every year and resubmit to get lower. So the 5 years when they do a complete overhaul, like a review, not like an audit type of thing.
So they adjust on a yearly basis? not
Yes,
just every
but
5 years,
yes,
okay.
we can adjust on a yearly basis.
That's good.
That's all I had.
Councilman Butler?
I would just like to suggest, as Sal, put his statement into writing to help things move along, that we all do our best to try to do things as expeditiously as possible. I believe it's the best phrase. A lot of times we tend to wander off topic. We've got 17 items. We got a CRA meeting. We got a lot to do tonight. So all of us, including myself, try to keep things to the point, and let's move business along as quickly as we can, doing a good job. But you're across from me. I look at you. You realize that. But any help from the public too, if you could, just kind of help us. Keep in mind that it's a big agenda, and we're going to be here a long time no matter what. So just would like to help try to keep folks moving along. That's all.
Thanks, Bill. Councilwoman Rodriguez?
10-minute lecture is now off, Emily. I'm good. We'll pass. Thank you. Gone.
Done? Okay. Just a couple things. One, how's the sound out there? Is it same, better, worse? Here, did we get any?
Well, the air conditioner's off.
Yeah, true. Did we get feedback from the company?
I have not received a phone call.
Okay. The other thing I had, wanted to give you an update on the chamber. So if you listen forward, actively working on Chamber of Commerce for Port Richey. I put a picture of the logo that is out there. So basically, they've got the logo done. They've got the websites under development. The business plan is put together. So that's coming to fruition. I believe tomorrow there's a meeting about looking at a potential location within the city to bring that up. So there's a picture there of the logo. When they reached out, I had them make sure that they incorporated the pelican since it's our mascot. So they did such. So if anybody else in the public wants to see it, I've got them up here. Feel free after the meeting to come by.
Who was they?
Ron McDonald is the principal that's putting it together. So, but I think the only thing that they're waiting on is a 501(c) be approved by IRS. The entities there, like I said, they're moving forward. They just need that nonprofit status to actually secure the property and stuff. So, should be coming soon. We had a meeting with on 9/15 with the county, Dave Mueller, Devin Aaron, and Carl Roth on the dredging. That was a very positive meeting. They went over the MSBU program that the county's putting together, explained that. We made some contacts. So I wanted to just let everybody know that it's in the works. Obviously waiting for the new city manager to get on board, and I'm going to have a conversation with him. I'm bringing Carl Roth in as well to talk about overall coastal estuary restoration resiliency plan, which would include some dredging obviously in there, but approach it from overall water quality and basically just making things better all around. I think Carl's gave you guys a press to do that again as we move forward that once the new city manager's on board. So that's to come. But I did pass along information for the grant coordinator Pasco to give to our grant writer. They suggested next steps would be to actually go out and look for possibly a planning grant to kind of get started on some of that. So that's in the works. And then the last thing I have, I just wanted to throw this out there, obviously with the meetings going longer and stuff like that. We've had some earlier ones with the budget hearings and whatnot. Is there any appetite to change the council meeting time up to maybe 6:30 or 6? Or you guys want to keep it to 7?
Earlier is better for me, but
I think there's some conflicts in the past. I didn't know what you guys thought.
I mean, Linda has a full-time job. I don't know if Todd, I believe you do some work.
Some of us work.
Some of us work.
I mean, I'd love to do it like the county does. I mean, they meet at 10 in the morning, they break for lunch, and then they come back and finish up in the afternoon. Works fine for me.
Yeah, that
doesn't work.
yeah, that wouldn't happen.
No, I'm just saying, from my standpoint. So I'm agreeing, yes, I'd love to see an earlier meeting. Because the meetings have been running longer in general. I mean, this one's gonna run really long, but it is what it
And
is.
it's nice to get off a little bit earlier, so it's up to you guys. But that's
Yeah,
all.
I could probably do 6.
What's your thoughts?
I could do the 10 o'clock. I'm ready.
Yeah, he's with me on that one.
6 is fine. I think we need to keep it at 6 in the future, because even if all of us don't run again, if you make it at 10 o'clock in the morning, this is not a full-time job.
No, yeah.
You absolutely cut off a lot of the public from potentially trying to serve and run in the
Sure.
future. So I think 6 would be the absolute earliest, so that people who work can in the future run if they choose to for a council seat.
How's that work for staff?
Staff will be fine. I think though, I was motioning to the clerk, if I'm correct, Nancy, we might have to look into this. Is that, I believe it's in the charter about the time. And I think we might have to,
Looking right now.
Charter?
The code or the
the
charter.
code, I think we have
Code
to
we
actually
can
change it.
change.
We could
Yeah,
change that.
Code's much easier to change. That's what I'm trying to verify.
Well, if everybody's in agreement,
It's in the code, so we can just do an ordinance to change it.
Yeah, we'll
if
have to
it's the
we'll have to bring an
consensus.
ordinance to do the change, but we can move forward.
so by consensus, you guys all good with 6 o'clock?
6 work, yeah, 7, 7.
Just remind us.
I just
I'll be
changed my,
showing up at 7.
I just changed my Google Calendar. I do whatever it tells me.
All right, so yeah,
Well,
Nancy, if
we'd
you
have
could,
to do, it wouldn't be for a month anyway, because we have
Right.
to change the code every month and a half,
It's gonna
so.
take ordinance, so 2 readings.
go
So
through the
I
motions.
will get that one done as quickly as I can, yes.
Thanks. Good. Okay, that's all I got. All right, moving on, comments from boards and committees. We have any? Here? No. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. For a motion, I wanted to bring up an idea here just to kind of help us all. Is it possible in a consent agenda that we could not only list, here's the, what the item is and what the bill is, but could we also look, what, was that within budget? What was budgeted, the variance? So for instance, on this Hunting National Bank, $78,315.63. Let's say it was budgeted at $75,000. It would show over 3,315. Just kind of give us an idea as we look at this to see where we're at on these recurring expenses.
I'll check with the finance director, but I believe that any item on the consent is just basically either it's a budgeted item that's pre-planned, and that's part of the lease agreement for that. Like that first item is part of that payment plan. So
Right, but is there ever a case where they're over what they should be? Like obviously, first
want the
attorney
balance
fees
in that
obviously
one.
vary.
You
and so
want the
we budget a
balance in
certain
that
amount.
line item? Is that what you're asking?
like what the balance
Like
of the line item
for
would be,
American
that
Traffic
deducted.
Solutions, we have those monthly, so you want the remaining balance in that line item?
Well, no, I'm just thinking for this particular month, if we budgeted, 10,000 for attorney fees and it's 11,000, it would show that we overspent.
We budget on an annual basis. So I could tell you what's remaining in that account, but we don't budget monthly. We budget
Well,
annually.
right, but wouldn't we show it as you divide it by 12 and show it that way?
These fluctuate every month. I mean, it's, especially attorney fees. It could be up one month, it could be down one month.
Yeah.
So
Well, if there's anything that you could just give us a little bit more than just a line item that we're agreeing to, just kind of see where we're at. Again,
Just, keeping in mind a consent agenda are things that, the consent agenda are things that the council has already agreed upon. They're just expenditures we just have
Right.
to pay. Then there's certain things like, paying into the retirement system and such that, or the red light cameras, we have no control over. We owe them that money. It just happens to be over $10,000. So we put it on a consent agenda just so council is aware of it. So, but that's basically all there is to it. We didn't used to have a consent agenda, actually.
If come towards the end of the year, like, if we're over budget and we have to ask in the contingency, then we would bring it in front of council and
Right.
say, look, I need X amount of dollars to cover these bills.
right. Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid. If we kind of know as we're going along that, hey, this thing we're constantly overspending this, we probably need to be prepared for that at the end of the year. Any kind of insight we can have.
I'll discuss it with the finance
Okay.
director and see what other options we
Okay.
can generate for that.
So look for a motion or discussion.
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Anyone from public like to speak? Seeing no hands, put a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moves down to council business. Item number 3, Thrive Information Technology Presentation. I'll turn it over to Mr. McCary for introduction.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For council's presentation, my IT specialist, the IT specialist for the city, and myself, we've been searching for a new data server company to work with the cities, to work for the city of Port Richey. Not only for City Hall, our police department, and fire department. Currently, our data server company does not utilize for the police and fire departments. Only because they're not CJIS certified. So one of the points that we're striving was to find a data server company that will provide that CJIS certified, so we can bring all departments under one unified cloud network. Right now, we're under a hybrid network where we have a closed loop system for the fire and police department and a cloud network for City Hall. That, of course, has been causing issues for PD because of that, of the outdated and older server systems that they're having. So we've approached a company, and Thrive is one of the only CJIS certified companies by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So they're here tonight to provide a presentation of their product and their services, and then later on at a future council meeting, I'll be bringing proposals for them. So if I
It's not
can,
an action item, it's just,
no, it's just a presentation time.
So this is for emails, everything, right?
Yes, this would be a complete, no more Barracuda. No more Barracuda, no more,
Hey, good evening, and thank you for your time, and we appreciate this opportunity to partner with the city. My name is Mike McMillan. I've been with a company by the name of DSM for 30 years. We were recently acquired by Thrive. What does that mean to you? DSM, prior to that acquisition, is we were a small firm with about 50 employees, and within that, we became CJIS certified within the state of Florida, working very closely with law enforcement, FDLE. In fact, DHSMV, or Highway Patrol, is one of our clients, also one of our largest cloud clients, to give you an idea. And we are the only, since acquired by Thrive, we now have this under Thrive. We are the only CEJA certified facility in the state of Florida for data center services. And we're grateful to be here today, so thank you. So Thrive, DSM, we're approximately 1,300 employees today. We're a national company. We've actually gone global. And when you're dealing with small businesses and also with agencies, sometimes when you think about a national company, maybe sometimes you may feel like that we might be too big. But one of the things that I love about Thrive, and one of the things that you'll take advantage of, is that you do get the corporate Thrive with about 900 certifications or so with people. But we have pods, and we have 3 here in Florida, where you get the white hand glove support to ensure that we can deliver services locally. So even though we're global, we do have local data center here in Florida, as well as one of our primary offices, so 3 offices in Florida. Within that, what differentiates us from a lot of other providers, I mentioned our CEJA certification. Our data center also meets HIPAA. We go through the same processes to make sure that we meet as law enforcement, so FDLE audits us on an annual basis. We also are a SOC 2 facility type 2 as well, which means basically we get audited on an annual basis. Any questions in terms of that? One of the beautiful things about being with about 1,300 employees is the amount of certifications that our team brings to bear. The benefit that you get from a city perspective, if you were to try to go out and hire cybersecurity experts, as a small example, number one, there are not a lot of them out there that are looking, and then second to that is they're very expensive to hire. When you work with Thrive, you get to take advantage of the depth of technical expertise that we have. Office locations, we're mostly on the eastern seaboard. You can see that we have 3 locations here within Florida. What's probably most important to you is the type of services that we deliver. In the center of this, you see the ServiceNow, which is our platform. When we bring services together, we have very tight integration to make sure that the work that we deliver to you integrates really well. On the top there, we do provide cloud services. We deliver that to a number of agencies within the state of Florida. Here recently, one of my clients, the city of Sebring, after Highland City was compromised, that's public record, but it was actually the Highland Sheriff's Department. The city was concerned about their security. The city was already a customer, and we looked at the police department and their state, and working with them, we migrated both the police department and the city into the cloud. So what we're talking about today in terms of what we would be proposing is very similar to what we're doing with other organizations. I was at the CEJA's conference earlier today and was talking with the city of Lakeland as an example. I'm currently working with their police department to migrate in the cloud as well. From a cybersecurity perspective, I think what happened to the city of Dallas in reference to paying out $8 to $9 million in ransom is the scare that we all should be thinking about, is what do we do to further protect our environment? There's not a silver bullet as it pertains to cybersecurity. It's a layered approach. But I'd really like to thank your team, George and Sal, to work with us that we could design not only a cloud solution that can kind of bring things up to a higher level for you, but also to introduce some cybersecurity basics that's going to help you adhere to the new CEJA's policies that are being discussed this week in Orlando at the CEJA's conference. Criminal Justice Information System, what we have to do to comply with that is every one of our employees are background checked, fingerprinted by the FBI. We go through training on that. And so that means when people are working with your data, you know that they meet those standards no different than your employees would have to. The other thing that we have to consider about just going through hurricane season is disaster recovery. Not quite out of that yet. Rather large storms that we deal with from time to time. With ransomware threats and disaster recovery from a hurricane, we need to make sure that we can recover. And by leveraging cloud, you're in a very hardened facility in Winter Haven, Florida. That's in the middle of the state at a whopping 160 feet above sea level here in Florida, which is almost a mountain. but nonetheless, your data would be protected and much farther inland. Also, global network management, making sure that we're delivering management services to your firewalls, your network devices. We also deliver professional services. And another key factor is as you're moving into the Microsoft 365 platform, is we have the ability to monitor and manage that as well, because that is also a threat vector that threat actors will attack. Part of our Thrive 5 methodology, we do go through assessment processes with our customers so that we can develop a long-term IT strategy. And working with Sal, we actually did a ransomware health check. I'll touch on that in a little bit. That was a free assessment that we provided. The benefit to you is it was able to identify some of your strengths as well as your weaknesses. And as part of that process, in a few minutes, I'll be talking to you about where you scored really well, and then how, when we integrate this, how you can be in a better position. As far as our cloud footprint, you can see that the building of the data center here in Winter Haven, but that is one of many 16 data centers that we have across the state. What's unique about the Florida facility is it absolutely meets the CJIS standards. Cyber mesh architecture is something that was developed by Gartner. And what does this mean to you? Kind of a fancy acronym, as we always have in IT. To make it simple is we all have a lot of tools in the IT environment to further protect your environment, whether that's a enterprise class firewall, secure gateway, and so forth and so on. Is a lot of these tools that people have inside of the various organizations, they don't mesh or integrate together. And by following this architecture, what Thrive does when we deliver our security solutions is making sure that we have that tight integration. And what's unique about us is we have our own 24/7 staff security operations center that monitors this on your behalf, that are badged, Thrive employees. Looking at your current environment, working with your team was to try to develop just a basic diagram that represents what you have today. As with any environment, there's things that you can improve upon, and one thing in particular is, from a Microsoft perspective, is bringing you up to a higher standard and developing Active Directory within the city, and then also making sure that the police department and the city are segmented from each other, because the city doesn't necessarily have to meet CJIS, but the police department does, and making sure that you only have access to what you should have access to. So that's a simple diagram to kind of represent what you're doing. The next slide represents your ransomware health check. The ransomware health check is divided into two categories. One is to try to prevent an attack. The second aspect of that is if once that we've been attacked, can we recover? And that's the million-dollar question. There's an old saying in IT, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we don't want to happen here. You don't want to be in the newspaper for the wrong reasons. And it's in the newspaper every day where somebody's being compromised. So what we did here is we went through a series of questions on the security side, as well as on the data protection and the disaster recovery. 2 different scores on a score of 0 to 60. A perfect score in both scenarios, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're never going to be attacked, but a 60 is pretty strong posture. And 0 being that you didn't do so well. As you can see before you, that you didn't quite hit the 20 mark on either the security on the protection or protecting your data. So what we want to talk about today is not only where we stand today, but where we can be tomorrow as well. So if we go forward with what we've proposed, you can see in the upper left-hand corner with the cloud, is we would migrate 5 servers up into the cloud environment. The benefit that you have to your local IT department, that basically means is that our engineering staff is managing that environment for you all the way up into the operating system. When it's local, if a server crashes or something along those lines, your staff typically would take care of it. In this scenario, you get to extend that to our IT team, which is now 24/7. We have a follow the sun capability within our organization, which basically means, because we are global, that when you make a phone call to us, there's always a body on the other end to answer the phone, and that it would get basically go to our pod here in Florida that would take care of all our CJIS customers. The other benefit is that high availability. Within a data center, it has all the resilience of generators, UPS, fire suppression, all the things that are required for having high availability for law enforcement as a first responder. If you look at this chart in reference to the post-install, once we've implemented this, these green arrows represent where your score could be after everything is deployed, and you'll notice that not everything goes green. And this is a projection. There may be a little modification to this depending upon how far along that we go. But our intent as part of the design was making sure not only that we have a secure posture, but also making that we're adhering to the CJIS policies as part of that process. So our law enforcement has various things such as multi-factor authentication that they'd have to adhere to. CJIS is now more aligned into a national standard because of called NIST, and within that institution, we're now aligning with that to help you see now that you have a much healthy score. I will say that that's kind of a phase one. If you look at it, there's more to be done, but working with you, we can continue to improve upon your security posture. Part of a layered approach to security. This is we call it the security stack, and when you're building it out, what I've done for due diligence is try to highlight in yellow the areas that this implementation would bring you into. It's not 100%, but you can see that we're over 50% of the items within this security stack that we can continue to work together and thrive one-on-one together to meet these standards. One of the key factors about Thrive also is the DSM acquisition is we are on GSA contract. And what that means is that this has been already vetted out. So we have about 1,000 SKUs or so that are up on our GSA contract. The GSA contract is a living document because technology changes and we're always adding and removing items depending upon the viability in the market. So as things come out that's new technology, we continually add them. Within the GSA contract, you're allowed up to 10% of items that are not currently on contract. So for example, if you had a line item that's not on GSA today, but you wanted it, if it's less than 10%, then you can add that to that. And there's a few line items within this quote that meets that. But we still fall within the GSA standard. So pricing breakdown, I didn't want to get into the weeds today, but at the end of the day, we're looking at approximately $10,000 a month, just over that, with an implementation fee of $23,000 and some change. When we go in through the implementation phases, once we have an approval, we don't start immediately. We do have a backlog of work. What that means is that there's other people just like you that are signing up for services with us. Generally speaking, when something's signed, within about 30 to 60 days, we would start implementing. Our onboarding team, because you would be a new client to us, will have a phase 0 where basically we have a documentation phase where our staff gets a little bit deeper into your environment, making sure that we document so when the project starts, that we're not trying to find information at that point in time. I will say the solutions architect, who wasn't able to be here today because he's out of the country on PTO, is former law enforcement. And he's our lasso within our organization, which basically means that he's over security for us, has worked very closely with FDLE. When you sign up with us for anything that's on the CJIS side, what we do is we fill out the paperwork on your behalf, provide you the directions that you submit to FDLE for approval. Makes it a whole lot easier. So that way George wouldn't have to necessarily worry about taking the time to do that. We provide that to him and then he can send an email. But the key beyond the GSA is the CJIS aspect of it. Every process that we put in place, we're going to validate and ensure that we meet CJIS. And that's something that we are very proud to be the only CJIS private cloud in the state of Florida. Any questions?
Well, I have to say, it is a good presentation. Obviously, it's not an action item, so we're not, taking any action on it tonight. There's a lot of things in there that we'll take some further digging into, but I appreciate your time and your presentation.
Thank you very much. And I've offered if, when you are going through the line items, if you'd like me to come back, I'd be more than happy to dig into the details for you.
I expect we'll have you back.
We'll have you back. I have one quick question on those, that monthly recurring costs. That was obviously an estimate. That's based on use, and 'cause that can vary depending on what we're doing, right? I mean,
So there's several elements as it relates to the monthly recurring cost. Your number of users, employees that you have, so that could, let's say you let one person go and you add another one, doesn't change. But if you hire 10 more employees, then any item that, such as MFA, which is multi-factor authentication, and what MFA is that, are you who you say you are, right? With our banks, most of us today use that, where you get a text to validate who you are. In essence, that could happen. Over time, your storage is going to grow. So that would be a one-line item. And let's just say that you wanted to add a new application. But it's kind of like utility billing. You know, we all pay the electric bill. You only pay for what you consume. But we'll try to keep those numbers as tight as we can. I will say with body cams, you know, being full HD, on law enforcement side, also with the Circle K, traffic cams, and all the things that go, is oftentimes there's a lot of storage. We highly recommend leveraging things like evidence.com, which provides some free services, so we'll work with you on that. The other thing is with, when you move to Office 365, OneDrive and SharePoint, that's part of your subscription. So if we see that there's some data that makes better sense to put up in the Microsoft Cloud that also meets the CJIS standard, then we'll work with you to make sure we migrate that data accordingly.
And part, it looked like you were moving the police department and fire department servers that are here locally now.
Yes.
Up to the cloud.
Those servers are local.
So obviously, once that happens, we pay for those, monthly for the server, and I assume they're dedicated virtual machines. Is that? Or
within our cloud environment, you have you'll be what's kind of like what's referred to as a server farm. Basically, dozens and dozens of servers with some high-end back-end storage. We carve out a tenant that's very specific to you that George will have access to. With that, you could add and remove memory as needed, provision servers, and so forth. So that portal will be accessed. But the other benefit is he could open a ticket with us because we're managing the servers and say, hey, can you do X, Y, and Z for us? And oftentimes our staff could do that for you. In terms of growth, over time, I anticipate that, year 5, that it's going to climb a little bit. But if you're mindful in terms of just not keeping data that you don't need, then we can keep controls over that.
If I can.
Does that answer your question?
Sal, I would assume too that most of our local servers are pretty much end-of-lifing right now.
Yes, we're pushing like 2008, if I'm correct, George, or older. Yes. So
I mean,
we're going to be spending money either way.
If we didn't do this, we'd be buying local servers, and we would not be in a secure environment, right, as what we're looking to do here. So
absolutely. I also want to add 2 things. One, the GSA contract is it's a federal contract that's for the entire country that other state entities have utilized, and this has been budgeted for the new budget. The pricing that they're providing for the monthly has been budgeted in our current budget. That's just been approved. The only item that was not factored in was the implementation, which is going to be separate, and we have a prepared line item for that to come out of. So, and when we bring this to council's direction, we'll show that breakdown on where each of this is going to come from.
We can also provide a full project plan that will go with that George already has gone over with our solutions architect, John Padron. I don't know that we need to get into all of that, but if you'd like to see that level of detail, we can provide it. In essence, we'll have contingency plans. In any type of IT job, something doesn't always go well, so if you always have contingency plans in place, we want to minimize any outages or inconveniences to you. So anytime there's a scheduled outage, you'll know about that in advance. As it pertains to the new implementations like security that you're not familiar with, we'll make sure that there's adequate training, memorandums, and those kind of things that we can assist you so your employees are not surprised.
And this is your own backend infrastructure? You're not using like Azure or?
This is a private cloud environment that thrives. That is correct. Yes, sir.
We preferred that. We didn't want to go into something like that.
But the benefit of private cloud versus, let's say, Azure, AWS, beyond the CJIS compliance that you have to maintain is latency. the distance in fiber, the speed of light to get from here to Winter Haven is quite short versus going up to Virginia. So you'll have better latency or in this particular scenario. And when you pick up the phone, you'll be talking to people that speak the same vernacular as you do. If you've ever called support, sometimes it can be challenging in terms of accents. But you have a management team, which will include myself, that will be, as an example, in some organizations you're talking to one person and then you get handed off to another team, and that's not going to happen. I'll maintain your account management status.
I have one question. I may not be able to answer it. I know federal government and state government, especially with law enforcement, are coming up with all kinds of new rules. Are we running up against any kind of new requirements that would force this, or is there anything forthcoming in terms of security and evidence storage or whatever that?
Well, there are new state mandates that have just been handed down. We actually just started a new personnel training program for cybersecurity. So new Florida statutes have just come down, and we're already beginning to implement those. We're at the beginning of stages of that. We have all computer users and the staff, and council will probably eventually be looped into that. It's a small training, basically like a webinar, about an hour and a half that all staff are taking for that. But that's basically step one. There's going to be a series of steps. And George, if I'm correct, there's more mandates that are going to be handed down in the near future.
Yes, and so the new council members will have to take on-premise training.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked the question.
As we all know, cybersecurity is very, very important, especially with items like ransomware. There's even locally, Zephyr Hills had issues last year with ransomware, and it's a growing concern throughout the country and throughout the world. So this is a big step in doing that, especially with a CJIS certified company.
Our governor has passed a law that you can't pay for ransom. Now, there may be some loopholes in that, but in essence, the only way to prevent getting hit with ransomware is having immutable backups. An immutable backup is a backup copy that cannot be edited or deleted, and as part of our solution, we are providing immutable backups. So in the event that you were compromised, we would have that data that we could recover. And you'll also have an extra copy that will be shipped off-site as well. So if we ever had any issues within the Winter Haven cloud, we're also copying your data off to another cloud environment as well for high availability.
And I'd sent this to you, if you saw it on this topic. There's a grant that was state and local cybersecurity grant program. State and local cybersecurity grant program provides funding to eligible entities to address cybersecurity risks and threats to information systems owned by, operated by, or on behalf of state, local, or tribal governments. So that's something maybe might help defray some of that.
Oh no, because I mean something like that. I got that earlier today, and I'll be forwarding it to the grant coordinator because there will be training that's going to have to be done by our IT specialists, by personnel, by active department head personnel that are more integrated into the system than normal. So that's a definite recommendation because we need to move forward in something like that.
Any questions? Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I again want to thank George for all your time and effort. You've been a pleasure to work with, and we're excited for this opportunity. Thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you.
See you again.
Next up, item number 4, ARPA SIP Penny for Pasco project allocation. I'll pass it to Mr. LaCarey for introduction.
Yes, Council, as I've mentioned in the past, we need to discuss, especially ARPA and our direction with that. I provided Council with a spreadsheet about what we technically have, what we're allocating with ARPA, and it's over what we actually have in that fund. So I wanted to go over the project list. I know we have a long agenda tonight. If this is more or less, if we want to move this forward to another meeting, I understand. It's just I want to begin this discussion because technically we have $1.4 million and we're basically at 1.6 and change. I'm sorry, almost $1.7 million in ARPA. There are a couple projects that we should discuss. I also included, which is not included in the entire package, but the quote that I included for Bay Boulevard is from Ajax. They have a current piggyback contract with Pasco County for a $20 million contract to pave. I do have the additional paperwork to pass that. That's not what this meeting is about. This proposal is just to give you an idea of what that one road will cost to pave. That particular road is one of the main arteries for the city. It was an RSL rating of 6 and lower. So me and the previous city manager, if there was a road to pay first and to work on, it was Bay Boulevard. That does not have to be the council's decision. I am open to start on any road project they wish to move forward on. I just wanted to give you a broadside view of what we're looking at. We only set aside 300,000. Let me look at that. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, so the finance director did update the mill and overlay estimate to what I have in the packet tonight. She actually updated everything that we have currently for ARPA. So that's why our new total is at 1691,705. Right now we have the limestone fishing pier construction at 279. That's not including what we've set aside for the design of the pier. That is currently ongoing right now at 175,000. The Knicks Park boat ramp, we have 100,000 set aside. Honestly, I think that's going to cost more as that project moves along. And then the water main project for Cody River Landing, we have slotted at 400. My 65% at the time was about 675,000. I predict when I have the full package, either by the end of this week, early next week, I'm probably going to be closer to 850,000. So I kind of want to see what council's direction is that do we want to continue with these projects moving forward? Is there anything that they want to come off or look for other avenues of payment? I know we've discussed penny for Pasco options. So I kind of
two of these are listed for penny for Pasco. Is that because they're feasible for penny for Pasco, or are they coming from penny for Pasco?
No, this is the ones on the ARPA spreadsheet said they can be covered from penny for Pasco if we chose to, if I'm correct. Yes. So we have that option to slate those two projects at the bottom for the limestone pier and the boat ramp towards penny for Pasco, taking off 379,000 off of ARPA, bringing us below, just a little bit below what we have total in ARPA funds.
That water expended for the water.
Right.
Now, that water main wasn't part of utility fund?
Well, the utility fund is an operational fund. When it comes to redoing this kind of project, which we don't have $800,000 in the utility fund to support one project.
Is this above or below the impact fees? That would be covered by.
Below, it's that number. Well, the total amount for the water main project is going to be below what we have available in impact fees because we don't have.
Well, what I'm saying is it could be offset by impact fees.
Yeah. I have $488,000 in water impact fees, so that can also be used to offset that because an impact fees can be used because we are changing the size of the line. We're going from the 2-inch galvanized to a 4-inch line, so it is permissible. I've talked with the finance director, but those monies are available to offset this as well. But I just wanted to bring to light because with what Bay Boulevard is costing, and if that's what council still wants me to go forward with, I will bring that entire proposal, including the RFP and the packets from Pasco County, to go forward with that project. If you don't wish me to, that's fine. I can contact Ajax and we can talk about other roads to do in the city. I'm just saying is that just to do that road alone, the one road, is that much. That's per that piggyback contract. And yes, could I probably look for better estimates? Sure, but you're not going to beat a $20 million contract on that pricing from Pasco County. So I'm pretty much looking for council's direction on which way you want to go.
Going back for a second, just to make sure I understand it. Let's say hypothetically the water main project is $600,000 total cost.
Yes.
We have 488 in impact fees, and we have whatever you have designated here, so we could offset and split between the two.
Yes, we can. Nothing wrong with that. It's just right now I don't, like I said, we just basically from council's direction and staff's best direction, we have this much allocated for ARPA, which is obviously more than what we have. So if council's okay with changing some of the allocation for like the limestone pier or the next park boat ramp, that's fine. but I think the direction to myself and to our future city manager should have that direction moving forward, because obviously we have a limited time with ARPA. Or, by December of next year, that's it. So I want to keep that ball rolling instead of waiting for him to be here to make these calls. That could be anywhere from a month to 2 months away. I think we should get this discussion and ball rolling.
One more quick question. The reclamite on pavement, we have it at 160,000. Is that a spent sunk cost, or is there still another 160,000 floating?
That was what we recommended. That's done.
So that theoretically, although it may not be cash out the door, should be in the spent column. That's a spent.
Well, yeah, we have for some.
Yeah, but yeah, we're set on 160. It's not moving. It's done. It's 160. That's the end.
No, because that was signed.
That's what you mean, right?
I just want to make sure it's not spent, but it's committed.
Right, yes.
It's committed. It's a committed
can't do
cost. It's
anything.
not going to change.
No,
and
it was
it's not
assigned-
an additional 160.
No,
floating
that
hours.
was not gonna
come in at 200,000.
No, because that was a signed agreement by council.
Okay.
We laid it out how much that was going to be. That's what they have to honor. That's the number. So, and I'm not changing it.
And the asphalt repair, 13,000, that's already spent, correct?
Yes, we did some asphalt repair to do some of the roads we wanted to rectify. There were some patches and whatnot that had to be done, so that money was spent.
So in reality, we're just talking about the bottom 5 items is what's adjustable
Yes,
in the list,
yes.
either reassigned or otherwise.
Yeah, because
Everything else is committed. Done.
Yes, because the Florida design for Weber Lane, our trim, the mangroves, we just approved that, so that's going to go forward. Coastal design, the design of the pier, that is still active. Our golf cart crossing, all of that is done. So yes, we're talking about from the mill and overlay on down. So like I said, I just wanted to present council and give everyone an idea of what we're looking at going forward. And kind of like looking for direction, only because this is kind of time sensitive.
And this is me speaking, in terms of the water main Cody River Landing, that can be offset by impact fees very easily. It's a attributable cost. Ultimately, when we replace the water mains and the water lines throughout the city, that's not necessarily going to be able for impact fees, because a lot of that is going to be replaced of the same size, which is not an impact fee ability. So that's going to be likely a bonded event. So the impact fees themselves, and presumably we're going to be getting more impact fees coming in that can offset and further replenish that. So I think at least some of that, maybe 50% or so, can be offset by impact fees at this stage.
We estimated that project to be about $800,000 or $900,000, and we only have $488,000 in impact fees right now. So that's the other portion of it that we budgeted for, that $400,000 in ARPA.
Well, you're just ruining my whole day, aren't you?
So yeah, so
So basically the 400 is the hit regardless.
right, because it's going to be 400 from this, and then possibly the 488 impact fees anyway. I haven't received 100%, but give or take, that, like I said, the 65% was at 675 when all is said and done. I mean, hopefully it's lower, but that's what we're talking about now. We can't talk about bonding, but I've talked to the finance director about this. Usually, unless you're $1 million and over, as far as projects are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a further discussion. I think if you're gonna bond and do the whole city, bond it all out in one shot, get the 2%, just do the whole city and be done and out the door. $10 million would be a nice, healthy bond. I don't know what our finance could take, but I think that's a separate discussion personally.
Okay.
Because you gotta get healthy on anything 1 to 2 million doesn't really get many people's attention, but 10 million will.
A question about, the mill and overlays for Bay Boulevard. Do we have the water lines on Bay Boulevard? Are they like past their life, or have they been replaced? Because I don't want to put a new road down and then have to dig it up to replace for the water lines.
Most of Bay Boulevard is in the easements on one side of the road or the other.
Okay, because I
When it
didn't want
comes
to
to Bay
pay
Boulevard.
$500,000 for a new road, then 6 months down the road, we're digging up because they keep breaking.
Yeah, that we have to make sure before we have any further conversations.
I only have, I'm trying to remember, I want to say maybe one, maybe two spots that crosses over on Bay Boulevard. I don't have the maps in front of me
Yeah, that's
to
fine.
be sure, but 95% of it is on either the left or right-hand side. I think,
Can we check that and maybe be proactive and change those out before we put a new road down?
yeah, and that's a minimal cost.
Yeah, that's what I'm
bore on that particular.
Crossovers, we could probably just jet under it.
Yeah,
Not
you
have
can
to
bore
cut
that
the road,
and
but-
retie
Yeah,
that.
depending on the size, you
Okay.
can probably just shoot.
I mean, I'm just, I'm a little, I don't know, it seems like we're just doing Bay Boulevard just because it's one big road and it's an easy decision to make, and honestly, I don't think Bay Boulevard is worth spending that much money on.
Well, I was gonna bring up now, some of Bay Boulevard is bad, but some of it's not, some of it's not bad at all.
I mean, certainly up around 19 is bad.
Yeah,
Somewhere
is
over
it
19
possible to
got terrible.
piece some of that, or?
This was for the entire road.
Right.
I can do.
Can you bring us back that list of, like, do we have 1s and 2s and 3s in there as well? I can't remember. Sal, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're talking about the
Grading.
Did they
study,
grade the road grading?
study.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Grading
can bring
the
that back. I mean, we've got roads. I know the majority of Bay Boulevard was rated at a 6, and we only reclamated 8 and above.
Right.
So we can look at every road that was 6 and under and decide what we want to do. That's like
Yeah.
I said, Bay Boulevard was just an example. Like I said, if council decides you want to do half of Bay Boulevard, let's say from Old Post Road to 19, I can cut that down, and then we can do other segments in other parts of the city. That's fine. We can go straight off of the
At least we can look at it
the
and
road
see.
survey list and see.
I mean,
So-
if something's a 2 and there's nothing on the road, then why, there's no homes, we're not impacting homes, it's not a frequently traveled road, then why do it? But let's take a look at that list again.
Maybe, sorry.
No, we can bring that at a future
Perfect,
meeting.
thank you.
Like I said, as far as time, I just want to make council aware is that, within this year, if we're gonna do paving, we've got to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Well,
I think I'd love to do paving. Maybe this council kind of sets aside a fund, 600,000, 500,000, 498, $819 and say, yes, we're gonna pave
Something.
Right.
that much somewhere, half of
Right,
Bay
yeah.
Boulevard and
Right, in other
whatever
words, without
roads.
specifying the road,
And,
just. so
yeah, we're
it
telling
was placeholder.
them, we're gonna spend 500 grand, you figure out the best use of it, whatever that may be, or we'll collectively figure out the best use. But we gotta figure out the rest of the hole that they're gonna create, because we have to do the water main project in order to do Cody River.
Right.
Do we say, yes, we'll push Limestone Fishing Pier to Penny for Pasco? There's funds available to it. Or the Nix Park boat ramp, and at least make the ARPA funds whole so we can spend them, because that's gotta be cashed out the door by the end of the next year, done.
We're under 240, or we're overspent 240 now, so.
We overspent probably 440 when all is said and done, and he's done spending all the money.
So probably need both those to move.
You're probably gonna need both of those to move Penny and Pasco to balance the budget.
Probably the most logical thing to do, I think.
What, the last two?
No,
No,
the 2 penny
Pier and the
Pasco.
ramp.
The two identified as Penny for Pasco
Yeah.
capable.
I'm not crazy about moving those into Penny for Pasco, to be honest with you, but,
I mean, there's also grants and everything. We're basically pushing them to another funding source that isn't gonna be spent by the end of next year.
Which I am diligently working with our grant coordinator, for a limestone pier grant. It's an FWC grant, if I'm correct. And what kind of grant is that for the limestone pier that we're looking into?
That's DEP grant.
DEP, thank you.
Well, speaking of this grant was not approved on that one.
That was the previous one. We can resubmit,
Oh.
next month. So it's every 6 months you can resubmit, so.
The bottom line, this council needs to give Sal the guidance he needs so we can get these projects going and get that money before the end of next year. We need to give that to them as soon as possible, if not tonight. I like the idea of moving forward with the water main project, Cody River Landing. That's more of a necessity to keep that project moving along.
only because I agree that that's going to have to be done first, one way or the other. I mean, I don't think it's prudent to spend all that money on the road improvements, sidewalk improvements on a 50-year-old galvanized line, and that definitely has to be done in order to move that project forward. And I've specified to both engineers that because this is going to come out of multiple funding sources, is that it's going to, even if we had the same contractor do it, putting it out to bid, that it's going to have to be separate projects within that bid, because we got CRA funds, we're going to have ARPA, and then we're going to have impact fees. So I want to make sure that that is separate, and especially in the eyes of the state and the CRA. For the CRA, I want to make sure that we spend our dollars on that CRA project.
Do we have a couple construction projects coming up down that area, is that correct?
In the Coney River Landing?
No, I'm sorry, Bay Boulevard down that area.
The Vacara Bay property they started doing, they've pulled some environmental permits, they've done some land clearing. They are in the process of beginning to build, and that is located on Bay Boulevard near Carolyn Drive, on the northern side of that. So they've moved forward in doing some serious land clearing, so they can outline and present further on. And we've had the building official, myself, Development Services Department have had several discussions. They are, if it's one project that we've discussed in the past about actually happening, they're drawing the closest. We've had a conversation about the property next to Walmart. The Kryman property is still on hold. He's still negotiating with a buyer for that property, but Vacara Bay is moving forward.
So would it be smart to pave Bay Boulevard if we're going to have construction vehicles going up and down that road, or would that be would be benefit to wait for that?
Are they single-family homes, or are they bigger? Multifamily in there?
Construction could be 2 years. I mean,
it could be. It could be a couple of years. Like right now, they just grubbed areas out now so they could get their surveys and stuff done. It could be a year. It could be 8 months, according to how quick they can go here when they start moving heavy equipment in.
It's still
not my place. I kind of agree. You are going to have heavy equipment going down there that will tear up a brand new road.
That puts us.
It just depends on how far you want to go.
Yeah, well, we could use it for other roads.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying. I mean, maybe we could, when we bring that list back, we can look at the roads that aren't going to be heavily utilized for heavy construction equipment, and in the future we'll have to use other funds for Bay Boulevard. Bay Boulevard needs to be done. I totally agree with that, but I don't want to pave a road for
Well, I'm assuming too that if
a lot of money and then have to redo it and refix it and fix potholes.
if they do tear up the road, they'd have to replace that, right?
Yeah, but patches are never as good as the original.
Well, all I'm saying is that we don't pave it, they mess it up, they pave it.
Oh, okay, well,
So, as opposed to us paving it and then messing it up and us repaving it. So let them mess it up first.
They won't pave the whole thing. They'll patch what they damaged. They'll put a new base down, and then theoretically you come in.
They're going to do that whether it's a new road or an old
Right,
road.
what I'm saying is you could probably work it out where they would just give us the cost, whatever, to do that, and we could apply it towards.
Correct.
The only issue I point that out to council is, who did it? Was it the construction vehicle? Was it the dump truck? Was it the garbage truck? Was it the big a larger Amazon truck? I mean, unless you have physical proof and point that out, and you have cameras set up, and it can become that kind of battle. Did you really do it? So that's what
The only way where you're
I
going
just don't want to do it before they wreck it.
Yeah,
Right.
the only way you're going to get
agree.
it is if they have to cut the road to get across to get to a utility line or something like that. You're never going to get them for surface wear or damage from a truck. It's going to be, we had to cut open the road to get to the sewer.
So you'll bring that list up back to us and we can look at that. That'd be perfect. I think, thank you, Sal.
So to bring back up what Councilman McClary brought, I mean, we have 490 set aside here in the ARPA. I mean, do we just want to make it 500,000 or a set number, and then that's what we're going to use towards paving? Or
I'm fine with 500,000 paving something,
Yes.
okay,
I like that.
and we'll figure out the something very shortly.
Very shortly.
and as far as the limestone fishing pier construction and the boat ramp,
I think we need to push those, because one, right now, we don't, we don't know how much the Knicks Park boat ramp is gonna cost. The last quote we got was 200,000. It could be easily more than that. We have no idea what that's gonna cost right now. So to me, trying to sign that to ARPA funds when we don't even know the full cost, or when we will know the full cost, is not prudent. So that should get pushed just on its very nature of an unknown. The Limestone Pier project, again, that is a guess right now. I think that is a penny for Pasco. I know you don't agree with penny for Pasco for
Well,
that.
and the reason I don't agree is essentially, we rely for penny for Pasco, as we'll get into the next agenda item, and that traditionally for an awful lot of reasons that were not piers, bathrooms, or whatever. And I'm afraid we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I think Peter might need the money. So,
But the other benefit of the Limestone Drive is that has alternate funding sources. It has penny for Pasco. It has a grant. It has other avenues.
but I mean, we've been going under the assumption that it was going to be under the ARPA, right? The limestone.
It was assigned to it, yes.
So now it's just basically getting bumped out.
Or items that we know are going to have full pricing within the next 30 days.
I'm not fond of doing that, but I believe I'm in the minority here, so in case expediency, I won't argue the point.
All the other parks are in good working order? Waterfront, Thrasher, et cetera, et cetera?
I had talks with our building official. We're actually we're going to be implementing in the very near future, and this is going to be good information for finance and the new city manager. Is I would like to create an infrastructure CIP. When I mean a city hall type of city property infrastructure CIP program. Right now, we've concentrated on water mains, sewers, things like that, but there are things that I don't believe are on the current CIP. There are some items that are and some items that aren't. Some of our bathroom structures at the parks are the original for the past 40 years, are going to need it. Those roofs, those pavilions, those playgrounds, things like that, those are going to be items that we're going to create and want to implement into this. We've talked about items here at City Hall, the roof items like that. We're also trying to get grants for because of this building now is 23 years old. So there's items that are going to be starting to have to be addressed on City Hall itself. So we want to work towards that. So him and I, and obviously moving forward with our future city manager, we'll be looking into those items. Right now, we have no emergencies at our parks that we got to do like today. So
That would be great, would be like, and almost like the road thing, with a priority list on what's need would be really good.
As far as the limestone pier, I mean, we're committed with coastal with the design. I personally, and like we had this conversation at our last meeting about finishing projects, I really think that with that money that we're committed and we're moving forward, I just had a phone call with coastal today. We are going to be having discussions with Pasco County and the owner of Whiskey River about easements and lines, so we can continue that design. There's some items that need to be discussed that we have to address, but they're moving forward with that, and I don't want to dismiss that. And basically, once we've done paying, we have this $170,000 package and do nothing with. Council's direction earlier this year was they wanted to get that pier done because of how long it's been involved in the city. It's the history behind it and everything like that. Believe me, in my 26 years here, I've worked on that pier, so I completely understand that. So I really think that we should move forward with that project. Like I said, we're aggressively hunting that grant for it, and we're working on that. So hopefully, if we can do that, we can pay for that completely separate, and not have to worry about ARPA or penny for Pasco. But right now, I'm just basically working with what we have today. I mean, I can't count on a grant until we actually lock that in. I think so.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Number 5, approval of resolution number 23-06, reduction of CRA boundary size, Eptide Lane. I'll pass it to Nancy. Read.
I'll read it. Resolution number 23-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Richey amending the City of Port Richey Community Redevelopment Agency's plan, providing for findings, amending the community redevelopment plan to exclude certain property from the redevelopment area, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I move to approve resolution number 23-06 to remove property from Eptide Lane.
Sorry. Motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have number 6, surplus of impounded vehicles. I'll pass it to Mr. LaCarey for introduction.
Yes, council, for council approval is a list of impounded vehicles from the police department. Looking for a motion to approve a surplus of impounded vehicles.
Motion to approve the surplus of impounded vehicles.
Bill, second. I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have item number 7, Pasco County Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement. I'll pass it to Mr. LaCarey for introduction.
Yes, presented to council in the past as a Port Richey Police Department is one of the 5 law enforcement agencies within Pasco County. The mutual aid agreement will be that all 5 agencies will provide mutual aid to each other by Pasco County. Looking for a motion to approve the Pasco County Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement.
Motion to approve the Pasco County Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Was there a change to this from the last one? What it specifically changed on it? Is it
I know they had to send an, I believe there was a typo error or something that they sent us an updated. That was what the issue was. It just wasn't, they found something, a discrepancy.
So basically between the past agreement and this agreement, there's no change, content-wise.
I noticed nothing. The city attorney looked this over, didn't find any discrepancies with it. And as far as I know, either you or the police chief have not noticed any major changes in this agreement.
So just looking at it quickly, the basic context of it seems to be in line of what it's always been. Obviously, it didn't go line by line, word for word of previous agreement, but the context is.
You guys looked over no gaps or anything to see that we.
No problems. I've noticed.
I mean, just jumping in here for a city attorney, I would expect a strike through highlight if there was any significant change.
I was not given a prior copy. I just reviewed this for legal sufficiency, and it's fine. I can't tell you if it was different before. I assumed there was one that just expired. That was my assumption.
Okay, well then I would ask in the future that whoever does make any changes, we get a highlight and a strike through so we know exactly what the changes are, because I don't have last year's in front of me to do a comparison.
And I'm happy to do that if we want to wait. Just do I'll come back to you with that. I'll look at the last one.
Is there a time crunch on this?
I don't believe, I'm not sure if there's a immediate time crunch on this. I mean, it's,
if we can
Can it wait for 2 weeks? Is the question.
we could possibly table this and
I don't
just to
believe
do
they
that last
put
review.
a set time span on it.
Does the other agreement extend until
I
a new one's in place?
The current one is still in effect. I would have to go back and confirm that to you, Judge Hartman.
This one in front of you has an effective date through January 31 of 2025. Doesn't mean anything, but I'm thinking perhaps January might be the time frame that the old one ends, but I don't know that. I'm just a guess.
Well, if it did end, it's
No,
January
coming
20, this coming January.
But I don't know that.
These are yearly agreements?
I've never seen an agreement with this.
No, I think this is, I want to say, is it 5? Is it 5?
5 years
I would suspect it to be longer because it's very common.
I believe,
Yeah.
past recollection of it, 4 years agreement.
I remember it coming up before, but like you said, I don't know if it's changed or not.
We can bring this back. I can send the current agreement to the city attorney. She can review both, and we can put in a comparison with both agreements next time for council.
I would prefer we did that.
Just make sure we're not.
Make sure we're not missing something.
Absolutely.
We go, whoa.
Thank you.
The PDF compare.
Okay, so we'll table that item.
Okay.
Item number 8, T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program Support Letter, Waterfront Park Sunshade. Pass it to Mr. LaCarrie for introduction.
Excuse me just one second.
Sure.
I did have a motion on the table, so I do need to
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who made the
Somebody
motion?
retract their motion.
consolidate.
Yeah, withdraw the motion.
Withdraw the motion.
And you second?
Yeah, withdraw.
Withdraw a second, okay. So now it's tabled. Thank you, Ashley.
I'm not sure if that's exactly. Okay.
Okay. T-Mobile.
Okay. For council approval is a recommendation to sign the attached support letter for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program to fund a sunshade at Waterfront Park. Council asked for direction for sunshades at Waterfront Park. For the fact that they are very expensive, we are trying to get a grant for them, and we need this letter in order to move forward for the grant.
One thing I wanted to bring up specifically Waterfront Park, but I think we talked about all the parks in general. If we could put them all in there, I know, obviously, if the grant's limited to X amount of dollars or whatever, we want to go after as much as we can, not just Waterfront Park, right?
I was only given direction for the Waterfront Park.
Waterfront Park is what
Yeah,
discussion
that's all
was.
that we talked about at the time.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about at the time.
And given the fact that, it's a grant program is 25 million, the bigger we make it, maybe the less likely we are to get it. So I wouldn't, I think one project in one park is probably something T-Mobile is going to swallow a little easier than a citywide project.
If I'm correct, T-Mobile is a nationwide grant program, so it's very hard. We've tried several times to get with T-Mobile, that this particular grant, it keeps renewing. We keep trying, so we just want to keep trying. We can look into the other parks and see which one, which other ones we want to address next.
What?
But, I mean, Waterfront Park was what's slated.
Sure.
I think this is the park that's used the most, is my
Yeah,
perception, as
yeah,
opposed
saying
to Brasher's not, it's used, but
If it's gonna,
this
if
is a
it's
bigger
gonna,
park.
if it's gonna if we add to it, if it's gonna potentially give us more money to do more, then I'd like to do that. But if you think it's gonna cause us to lose the grant altogether, then I'd probably agree to keep
And
Waterfront
I
Park.
think the sunshades of Waterfront Park were probably mostly, at least from my point of view, was because of events, providing some place to hide from the shade. There's not a lot of place to hide from the
No, that's the
sun.
best place for it.
Hide from the sun in Waterfront Park, and some of the other places, like
There's small areas.
there's a shelter there. There's not a lot of people. We don't run events there. There's not large numbers.
Osner and Brasher are the only two other parks or playgrounds.
I know we just took off the thing at Olsner, right?
Yes, that was one of the pavilion, one of the gazebos, but we have the other gazebo still
I
there.
think the top of that playground equipment too had something on it we took off.
But there's many trees at Olsner Park. There's never been a question about shade at Olsner. Brasher may be something we want to consider, but Waterfront Park is what we want to move forward with because both those playgrounds are pretty much next to each other. One next to each other, and it's a large area. So, and especially there's no trees there at all. So, and especially with the firework event being on one of the hottest months of the year, this is why we wanted to move forward in that direction. So,
Motion to sign the letter.
Second.
I think Linda got that second. Any further discussion? Anybody public like to speak? See no hands, put the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was unanimous. Bill and me kind of collided there on the. I didn't give you time to think about it. Next up, number 9, repair of water well number 1, pump, motor, and casing. Pass it to Mr. Carey for introduction.
yes, water well number 1 is one of 7 wells that produce water for the city of Port Richey drinking system. With this well down, in order to meet the city's water's demand, the other wells are pumping at a higher rate. To allow continuous relief between all the wells, staff is requesting the repair of this well as soon as possible. We've attempted to get additional quotes from other well drilling companies, but Citrus Well Drilling Incorporated is the only company to produce a quote to complete this task. The company has also done work for the city for us in the past and has done an excellent job. Looking for a motion to approve the repair of Water Well 1 by Citrus Well Drilling for $20,364.46.
I thought it was interesting that we reached out to all these people and there was several that didn't respond back. I don't understand.
This is why I included those emails. I included the people that we actually did contact with. our finance clerk and assistant to the city manager was the one who did all the contacting. This is why I told her, I said, let's include this information because I want council to be aware that we did try.
Yeah.
Some of the companies just, either they either had other work planned or they don't maintain the size of piping that we do. So this is, unfortunately, I can, I don't want to set this aside any longer than possible because of just the importance of this well. It's on the verge where I would put this as an emergency purchase, but for the fact that I have the other wells running and we have the interconnect system with Newport Richie, I wanted to present it this way.
Yeah. No, I just think that to not respond back and say, hey, we don't want it or something. I just hard to believe. But thanks for the due diligence.
No problem.
I mean, I was around last time we had a well down and we started pumping brown water and nobody was happy about that. If you look at page 83, it says, without well number 1 in service, require appropriation to purchase water, which also is not real popular around here. It's expensive. With well number 1 down, we're currently experiencing higher dissolved solids. So obviously we need to repair well number 1, and I'm certainly not against it. But it certainly makes me kind of apprehensive with our growth in the future. That if we're at a point right now with one well down and we're basically potentially pumping undesirable water, we have a lot of these developments coming in. I'm not sure how we're ever going to supply the water we need, and that's just my estimation. I've always been leery about large developments in the city simply because of the time when we tried to bring in reclaimed water for irrigation, and we're not doing that now. So we basically have places, developments around the city that are pumping millions and millions of potable water onto lawns. And I don't know where the future is here. I know that if you say we need to fix well number 1, we need to fix well number 1, but I think we all need to keep this in mind moving forward.
When these future developments start going in, and of course that's conversations I'll have with development services and the building official, one of the mandates that we can put on these developments is to perform a study to have them show us what the impact that they'll be doing on our system, and then that way we can see if we'll be able to determine if our current system can handle that. The benefit of our location and our well system, and since that's up and running, we've been able to pump our own water and provide that for city residents. But the good thing is that we also have an interconnect with Newport Richie, and if need be, that we don't have right now, we do have an interconnect with Pasco County that we can utilize. So providing that water to new development is possible. It's just, of course, that's what our rate structure is for, is to accommodate for that increase and be able to do that. Fortunately, we just provided, we just had that the rate study done for our water and sewer rates, and we can move forward with that. But as an action plan with these new developments, we can definitely talk to them about having a study done so we can see and look for that, and that's a coordination between us and their engineers, the water plant operator, the new director when he comes, to see what the demands will be on that, because we're talking several possible new developments in the next few years with that. So we're definitely going to want these studies done.
Well, again, I'm just making the point, the water's going to have to come from somewhere.
Absolutely.
And we can't keep putting more wells down in the Bandera well field or behind City Hall. We're pumping with the wells we have. We're pumping as much as we can out of those areas. If we put in more pumps, you're not going to get more water. You're just going to make all of the wells pump garbage water.
I can say my previous experience, and I thought we did this already, when you have a new development coming in, you have to get permission from the water authority for the respective jurisdiction to say, yes, you are allowed to tap into our system.
It's part of their permits.
Okay, so we do have that, and part of that analysis is, can we take that capacity?
Yep, they have to submit all that in front, and it's part of their plans. If I'm correct, Mike, if I'm wrong, correct me. But they have to provide that information of what they're going to, how they're going to affect our infrastructure with what size line and what demand that they're going to be asking for.
Correct. Yeah, and we bring that stuff up in the DRC meetings too, and get a heads up of, because we have all department heads in their utilities, public works, everybody. So that's one of the questions that does come up. What is your impact of your community going to put on our infrastructure? got to do with sewer, it's got to do with water, it's got to do with police, fire, everything. So that does come up at that time.
I moved to, repair the water well number 1 for the $20,364.46.
Sorry. Motion second, further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? Last but to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, acceptance of bid for the development of an updated community redevelopment agency plan. I'll pass it to Mr. Carey for introduction.
Yes, we want to present this to council and to our CRA board tonight because obviously it's a bid item. So I believe the council and CRA board should weigh in on it. As part of our CRA audit requirements, it's the development of a new CRA plan. We posted this out to bid for 30 days. We received one bid from Placemaking Collective for $48,726 to develop a new community redevelopment agency plan. So we're looking for a motion to approve.
So,
Okay.
go ahead.
I have a little bit of a problem with this in that I don't know what I'm getting for $48,000. I mean, I don't see the scope of what they're providing. I don't see, I mean, they have some of the bid documents here, but I don't have the bid itself that went out. I don't know what we're getting for 48 grand, to be honest.
Yeah, and I was going to add that, we have a plan. Is it something we can do in-house and actually modify that ourselves? So we really pay about $50,000 to go through it and modify that. Again, I don't know what kind of changes are necessary in here, but I can't imagine there'd be too much.
The last CRA plan was developed, I want to say it was 2002, if I'm correct. So it, and Pam, if you can weigh in when you want, but I personally, it was the original plan was done by an engineering firm in the past. I don't know if staff has the capability of redeveloping a new plan, but I can have the clerk reach out to this company to get a detailed scope of work, and we can table this item. It's just I highly suggest that we decide what we're going to do because it's part of the CRA audit, and we have to develop a plan one way or the other.
I mean, basically here it says the original one was in 2002, and then it says on June 23rd, 2009, the CRA approved resolution to authorize the preparation of amendment to the plan. So we have an amended plan as of 2009. This is the latest update to the plan. Then it goes on to say, pursuant to Florida statute, the plan should be updated every 5 years. So 2009, we need to update by 2024, basically. Correct, Sal? Is that what we're talking about here?
Sorry, we missed a couple updates. So it's 2009. We missed like three or four
What
updates.
are you talking
about? What?
That's the problem. The last one was 2009, and the CRA audit recognized that, and then you need to update it.
What did we do in 2009 when we updated it? Did we pay a firm to do that, or is that something we did?
I don't recall. I'd have to research that.
If I remember correctly from the audit, the 2009 plan still didn't have quite the
So in other words,
depth of information that
we
should
don't
have
have an
been.
option here. We have.
We have to do it. I mean, I agree we have to do it. The concern I have is I don't know what we're buying exactly for 48 grand.
Well, I mean, not, Sal, you get and tell us, but I mean, I assume what we're doing is we're gonna have these people come in and we're gonna talk about what's gonna be included and not included in our new CRA plan, or updated CRA plan.
I assume so, but I got nothing telling me
All right,
that.
let's go back to that. Do we have to do this tonight?
No, it doesn't have to be
I'd
done
like to see
tonight.
examples of other CRA plans, just,
Well, yeah, you can do that, but I mean, some CRA plans they're all over the place.
Okay.
Specific, like for instance, Lakeland has a CRA area that used to be orange juice processing plants.
okay.
And they all fell into disrepair, and they made that one industrialized area.
I see. All right.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
So not everybody's CRA plan is like, I mean, I'm sure we could find some other small city CRA plans, but
Okay.
ours, every CRA plan.
And one more question I have to that, so if we do bring it back, have you reviewed this bid? And so really, we don't want to approve this right now, would be my guess.
Yeah, we'd have to. Yeah, the
I've
motion tonight is
briefly looked at this, but nothing in depth.
It's to approve the amount of the bid, so we'd have to reject that bid and then bring it, we'd have to.
No, we can table it, you can
we
get the
table
rest of
it?
the documentation, and then she has a chance to look at it, and then we don't have to go, we're not rejecting the bid, we're
No
just
motion
tabling
was
it.
made, right? No motion?
No.
No.
Yeah,
Let
we're
me
just
ask,
tabling it, and
when we remove boundaries, does that not technically modify the plan as well? That doesn't count as a,
no, because we didn't make any, we didn't create any resolutions. We created resolutions to do that, but we're not modifying the plan.
those boundaries aren't
And
part
what
of the
what I
plan.
will do is that I can bring to the CRA board, we can review the current plan that we have, and then we can decide if, what direction we want to go in, and at the same time, I will reach out to Placemaking Collective to provide a detailed scope of services of what they're going to provide, so that we can talk about both at the same time.
Yeah, what we need to look at, we need to look at the current plan, we need to make up in our mind what we want the new plan to have in it, along with what legal requirements we have to have in a new plan.
I mean, just looking from it, it looks like there was 33 pages, and we were only started at page 29, so there's documentation in the original bid, looks like we're missing too.
Yeah, I mean, the documentation we have here is not really much of
Okay.
anything.
So you'll bring it back to us. Perfect,
We'll table that.
Bring it back.
perfect.
Next up, number 11, resolution number 2312, stormwater fee resolution. Pass it to Mr. Carey for introduction.
I may read the resolution by title first, that's fine. Resolution number 23-12, a resolution of the City of Port Richey, Florida, authorizing an increase in the annual non-ad valorem stormwater assessment and providing an effective date.
So, as part of our budget, we have to talk about the stormwater fund. When Stantec Services provided in January of this year, they recommended $11.50 per ESU for the current fiscal year, and moving forward, it was supposed to incrementally increase after that. Council at the time decided to make a motion for $7.50. The finance director and I have discussed for this, for the stormwater fund. We're proposing not only to bring it up due to the increases of FRS salaries and health insurance, that's about a 7.2%. That would be 805, but to continue at least working towards the 1150 recommended for 23-24. We recommend putting $1 on that, so the current rate would be at $9.05 per ESU. And looking for a motion to approve.
We just went through the budget on this, and I guess why are we hearing about this after that's all been?
The stormwater fund is a different fund from the general,
Right, it's
general
still,
fund budget.
still part of the budget.
Right, but if you can,
We just went from 3 to 750, now we're talking to go to 805, and you're recommending another $1, so now we're up to 905, so went from $3, we've tripled the rate of stormwater now, and I mean, I'm okay with the 805. I'm not happy with the extra $1 for capital improvement. Personally, it's inflation. We keep
So what I was going to add also is, back when before I was on the council, this was discussed and it was limited. It probably should have went a little higher then, but it didn't. So this will be something that it probably should be higher. However, given the fact that we raised the water rates and now we raised ad valorem, I'm not on board with raising this too. And so I guess if we need to subsidize from the general fund that we added ad valorem to bring over, which we can do, right? We can take general fund money to shore up anything in the utility fund, stormwater fund, correct? We just can't use those funds to offset things in the general fund.
You could, but the question is where you're gonna get that from, general fund reserves?
We can get it from the 0.18 we just raised ad valorem, so that's where I'm at on it.
so yeah, you take it from the money we're getting back from the CRA in the next agenda item. I motion to approve a new rate of $8.05 per ESU.
I have a motion. Seeing no second, motion dies.
I try.
Yes.
I mean, when this came through, we paid a lot of money to that company to give us their expertise on what we should be charging for water.
Stormwater or water?
The stormwater.
Okay, thank you.
We paid a lot of money for that study, and in our infinite wisdom, we chose to ignore them. That money was not only just to maintain the stormwater, but was to complete future work for infrastructure, which we've all agreed that our infrastructure is way past due and needs to be maintained and fixed. Preventative, but right now we're just fixing breaks and we're not doing any prevention at all, as far as I'm aware. I would make a motion to do the 905 as recommended by our interim city manager. It's still well below what that company suggested that we needed to maintain our stormwater. It's still well below that, but if we want to fix our infrastructure, it's got to come from, I don't know, somewhere. And it's still well below, so, I mean, the ESU was $11.50, which was what was recommended by the company. So 905 is still $2.50 less than that. So I make the motion to do 905 as.
And I might point out, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
No, you made a motion. Motion is on the table.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion second. Further discussion?
The only thing I was gonna add is, we're tapping people for another dollar. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I don't like the optics of it. And as far as capital improvement goes, it says right here, it's only gonna raise $43,000. So we're not gonna do a hell of a lot of capital.
5 years out to replace the 180.
We're not gonna do a hell of a lot of capital improvement for $43,000. So that's just my point. But anyway, you got a motion, you got a second. So that's the way it's going.
We're allowed to have discussion now.
Sure, yeah.
I can't see we're backing up on this, so might as well vote it out.
Like Linda said, we paid a lot of smart people a lot of money to give us their recommendation on what our city needs to maintain its stormwater. We just had a hurricane. We fared through it pretty well, but
Hey, you did.
Citywide though, compared to Fort Myers, we fared pretty well overall. So, next year, they're recommending 1185. The year after, they're recommending 1221. They're basically keeping up with inflation, and we're not. It's going to come to roost at some point that, we were $3 for way too long. We were way too low. Even at 1150, we're middle of the road with other cities. So at some point, it's going to have to come up that the stormwater rates are going to have to raise. Now, do we do $9 this year, $12 or $10 next year, or $11 next year, and then $12 the year after that? That's still putting us in a financial bind for capital improvement. Everyone wants capital improvement. No one wants to pay for capital improvement.
I'm all for capital improvement. I'm with you, though. I think a lot of it should be bonded. We need to have a capital improvement plan and attack it as a bonded item. And then we service the bond out of the stormwater fee.
Okay, then you're just adding that to your taxable rates at the end of the day to service the bonds.
The only point I'm making
You're saying you don't want to spend it, you don't want to hit $1 here and $1 there, but then, oh yeah, fine, we'll just do a bond issuance. That's going to add $1,000, $500 to $1,000 to everyone's tax rate. Boom, just like that. So you're going to be paying for it at some point. We have to do the work. I mean, we just have to, I understand people's pain. I understand money's tight. I understand that. But, we have infrastructure that's 50 years old. We haven't been maintaining it for the 7 years I've been here. I'm sure you could probably say beyond that, it hasn't been maintained. We're going to have to do this. I'm fine with this rate, but down the road, you're going to have to spend more. It just is what it is. And we're down, update the infrastructure and pay for it under emergency repairs. That's my pontificating for the night. I'm done.
For the moment.
Good pontificate.
I like.
Anyone else? again, my comments, we've raised. Every time we raise something, it's just a little bit. These little bits add up to a lot.
Well, and you're absolutely correct. It does. A little bit, it's like a gnat.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
But we have neglected it for so long. That's why we're doing this.
Sure.
I mean, the stormwater rate has been neglected for many, many years and wasn't updated. We saw where we were. We were at the bottom of the barrel, and our stormwater maintenance has shown that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why.
It is unfortunate. I agree with you. We shouldn't have to do it now, but it's been neglected for many years and has not done.
Sure, 100% on board with that. And the easiest way to get that money is to reach out and grab it out of their pocket. So what I want to, I've told y'all many times before, let's get creative. Let's streamline processes. Let's look at growth. Let's look at alternative ways to bring in revenue. We exhaust all those, and the only thing left is go back to pocket as a last resort. Then it's a little more palatable. But we're in unprecedented time here. We're raising, and this is just yet another example. So I can't vote for this.
And I will say one other thing. These stormwater rates hit water users. And some of those water users are outside of our city, not citizens of the city of Port Richey. So we're getting funding from non-citizens.
That was actually a question I was going to have. I don't think that's the case. So they're not even helping.
They're not even there.
So really, it's a weight on our residents' shoulders.
We don't maintain their stormwater
We
system.
don't maintain it, so we can't charge.
I tried. I hoped.
Yeah. Nice try.
Now, I don't know if it's possible or not, but is there some kind of, because obviously they're not paying ad valorem. And so if we were to grow and bring them in, that'd be another story, but they're just paying for the water service. There's a 25% surcharge on it. Is there opportunity for infrastructure fee or something that we can levy outside users for the water? Or are we strictly limited to just a 25% upcharge?
I'm pretty sure that's by statute.
I'd have to look. I don't know. I'd be happy to look into it, but I don't know sitting here.
Because obviously there's, the residents are paying for infrastructure that they're not. I don't know if there's something that we can do that they could help defray that. Again, they're in the same issue as well. They're paying higher tax, but obviously
But again, those are two different funds. The water fund and the stormwater fund are two entirely different funds, so one can't offset the other.
The water from the stormwater goes into the ground.
Yeah, stormwater frequently goes into our sewage, that's for sure.
Any further discussion up here?
Yeah.
Dave, I think I have you signed up, right? Yes. Well, Dave Mueller.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. This is the point that I'm a little confused on. Did we not just build a budget on 750 or 805? That exercise just ended. I'm wondering why that didn't come forward at that point in time. That should have been an assumption in which the budget was built. So we got a balanced budget the way it is now. Obviously, there's probably something coming out of some reserve, maybe it's a general fund, maybe it's something else, that addresses where that shortfall is. So that's what I'd like some clarification on. How was the budget built without the assumption, or what assumption was considered there? Because it's not real clear to me. Thank you.
This stormwater fund is its own fund. It's not part of the general fund.
Right. Does it have its own reserves?
We don't have
No reserves in that? Zero. Okay.
Zero.
So the salary stuff increases. That would take effect.
That was pulling out of the general fund last year, even, correct? That stormwater fund pulled out of the general fund last year, correct?
Salaries are allocated there, yes.
We have one salary allocated out of the stormwater fund. If I'm correct, right?
When we raised the rate last time, they moved salaries out of general fund into the stormwater fund, so that's basically.
Show of hands. Anyone else like to speak on something? Devin, welcome.
Devin Aaron, 5414 Bay Boulevard. I've thought about this myself, just in passing and, looking at, where the standing water is in the city and things like that. I know we don't want to raise, taxes on people because, everybody's struggling right now. I mean, everybody's struggling right now, unless you're filthy rich. You're not struggling, but most people are struggling. But we need to be able to pay for our infrastructure. We're a super small city. We got 3,500 people. I think our stormwater fee should probably be like $15. And you can laugh, Linda.
I'm not laughing because that's what, I mean, that's, that's.
But it's serious. I mean, and not just piss that money away. Like, we need to go use that on projects and go fix things, whether it be, water collecting and roads and certain things like that. We need to actually utilize this money accordingly and make this fund where, we can actually do something with it. I got like on my street where my house is, this is my personal, thing. We had we got a low spot in the street. Every time it rains, it's a flood. With that money, we should be going around the city identifying spots that are low-lying collecting areas and fixing that, whether it's filling this or making a drain here or working with the, with our citizens. Maybe they'll let us trench something to a canal, things like that. These are very important things. I think it should be higher. Bill, I know we don't want to raise taxes. I get that. Nobody wants to raise taxes. But this is something that we should really try to, think about a little more and say, okay, we just had a hurricane. We had a lot of issues come up from that we can see. Things that I've saw with my property that I'm addressing as far as drainage and things like that. And I think we need to do the same, and we need to up that rate. I also want to say this too. I was there when that gentleman did that presentation. That was very eloquent and well put together. But it doesn't matter. We can spend money to the high heavens, but if nobody listens, to the people we bring in. I mean, that was actually I'm not so happy with some of these presentations sitting here and listening to it, but that was a very good presentation. And I think we should follow suit, and we should raise that significantly, because how do you even charge $3 for that? I mean, it's nothing. And Rachel just said, we have $0 in there. Zero. I mean, there's something to be said about that. That means we're underfunding it. So we need to overfund it to compensate for it and actually do some little projects around the city, but use that money accordingly and not just piss it away somewhere. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
David Hester, 4851 Marina Palm Drive. Yes, I agree that we need to get things fixed and make sure they're maintained, but I find it odd that we sit here and we talk about the budget like this when we are more than happy to spend $25,000 for sparkles in the sky on the 4th of July, and yet we don't want to fix our drain system. Which is it going to be? I think we should stop the wasteful spending like the 4th of July spending and then go into actually spending on stuff like this. I disagree with increasing it to like $15, but a little increase is okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Just, let's clarify, obviously it is a separate fund, so it's locked in for that. So when I talk about, doing different things, if we increase money coming in the general fund, we lower ad valorem and raise stormwater, the net effect to the resident is the same or less, right? So it's not, I'm just not looking at stormwater as a silo. Yes, I think there needs to be some adjustment there, but my point being is that we raise it here, we raise it here, raise it here, and this is just another evolution. And I'm quite sure next meeting we'll probably look at something else to raise. So that's where I'm at. Any further discussion up here before I put it to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries. Next up is item number 12, approval of resolution number 23-11, Citizens Advisory Committee. I'll pass that to Nancy for a reading.
Thank you. Resolution number 23-11, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Port Richey modifying resolution number 04-11 to establish procedures for the Citizens Advisory Committee and clarify the Citizens Advisory Committee's purpose and function and providing for an effective date.
I'll jump in here, just a couple things. On number 9, all meetings of CSC shall be mandatory meetings for committee members. Any committee member who misses 3 unexcused consecutive regular meetings. I'm thinking we should strike consecutive. If you're at 3 unexcused, whether consecutive or not, probably should be what our goal is here.
Determines whether it's,
Well, I mean, over what period of time?
who's gonna determine whether they're excused or not?
I believe even the board members up here have a 3 unexcused absences. It's not consecutive, right?
It's in the code, but it's
I don't remember seeing it. Anyway, I think,
I'm just saying there is something in the charter or code about city councilmen missing consecutive meetings. State law preempts that. It's not worth the powder to blow it to hell. There's only one way there's only one way out of office around here, and that's either get convicted by a felony or resign. No,
Oh, now I know that.
Serious, we've been there, done that, you know? So, you know, I mean, I personally, I mean, when you have like, what, a 9-member board, you know, somebody's skipping meetings.
Well, I'll just give an example. If you have 2 unexcused absences and you show up and another 2 unexcused, you show up, another 2 unexcused, you're never gonna hit that, but you're hardly ever there. So, I mean,
We haven't had this issue. I mean, I think we're just.
I mean, you can get rid of, I'm okay with getting
Just
rid of
get
it.
rid of consecutive, that's all I'm saying. 3 unexcused
Whatever you want,
absences.
that's fine.
I mean,
Yeah, but
It's irrelevant. It's not gonna happen. So if you want to change the words, that's fine.
well, right. I mean, probably won't ever happen, but when you write law, you need to make sure that you're writing it for long term. Otherwise,
I'm
you're right
just-
back here with a
I'm
problem
just-
someday.
my only question to that is, okay, you have a person on the board who's been a board member for 5 years, and over that 5 years, they've missed 3 unexcused absences. Now we're throwing them out?
In my opinion, you should never have an unexcused absence, ever. You know, even if something happened, tonight's the meeting at 7:00, 6:30, I'm in a car accident and I can't call you. But if I call and say, hey, I was in a car accident, that automatically becomes excused. I can never see a reason. I mean, obviously they're volunteering their time and we appreciate that, but it's also by volunteering, they're making a commitment to that committee that they're going to be there. And things happen, they can't. It's a simple phone call. You know, it's just like when we go back to these companies we reached out to, they didn't even say no. They just didn't respond back. There's been emails that come to city officials that they don't respond back. It's something that, you know, I find extremely disheartening in this day and age that people just don't live up their obligations. So I don't think it's a stretch to say, you know, if over your tenure of 5 years, there's been 3 times where you couldn't call in. I mean, one, it's probably not going to be tracked to that level of detail anyway. So if it's a 5-year thing and it happened one time the first year, one time the 3rd year, it's probably not an issue. It's more in here that if it's a pattern, there's a way to replace some person with somebody who might want to be on the committee and actually want to attend meetings.
How about 3 unexcused absences within a 1-year period? That'll get rid of
At the very least, yeah. I'll be going through that.
Whatever you want.
Who determines what constitutes excuse?
That's what I asked.
Yeah, I don't know.
And who's going to
Yeah, Chair.
monitor it? And who's going to keep track of it? Now,
The chair runs meetings. I mean, there's an attendance record, right? They take roll call.
Yeah, it's fine. Just move on. Yeah, it's.
Okay, well, it's important that we're taking the time to go with this resolution. We don't want to leave big gaping holes in it. So that's, the other thing I wanted to add is on B, it says, engage in community-based projects that CAC determines are for the benefit and detriment of the city. I think it's supposed to be betterment.
I think so, yes.
So
Thank you.
we're definitely not looking to deter the city.
You hate to actually, you know, give that duty to them. Yeah.
I read that and I laughed out loud. That was,
Well, that's why I did it.
but no, everything else looked okay. Any comments from y'all?
No.
All right.
Do you want to table this, Nancy? So we can move on?
I'll need to make the changes. If we want the changes, I want to make sure everyone's on board. We're doing it to make sure everyone's on board with the procedures that CAC is going to follow. So if it would be better to bring it back so we can more fully discuss the unexcused absences, I can get some examples from other places that use that language to show how it's implemented.
There is one thing I would suggest. I think there's a CAC meeting on the 5th of October. Is that
the first Thursday of the month? Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's Thursday. I think it's 5th. But anyway, if you could maybe take what we have here and let
Get
those
their input?
folks get their input and see if there's something
Absolutely.
that they need more clarification on. Because obviously a lot of this was stemmed from that group needs clarification on what we do here.
No problem.
Right, so table it for now and
Well, for the sake of time, do we want to? Because the second reading we can change.
resolution only has one reading. So right now,
Oh, okay.
I just have to make edits. And I can
Yeah,
bring
we'll
it back
table
or
it.
we'll table it if that's the consensus and Linda will take it to CAC and get
Tell
their
me what you'd
input.
like me to do, and I'll be glad to do it.
Let's table it if you guys are good with that.
I have no problem with this. So what I'm hearing is that the CSC has not even seen this yet.
Not to my knowledge, they have not.
So they know nothing about this and we're making.
Well, I think they know we were looking at it, but they haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
I think they should definitely.
Yeah, they need to be part of this. That's the purpose of the CAC, for us to make these decisions without their input. We're out of line.
Yep, agreed. Thank you. So we'll table that.
Make sure we change the detriment
Yeah,
part.
we're
Yeah.
gonna take that one out.
Dave might actually like that portion of it all. All right. Okay, so that's tabled. Next up, we have item number 13, presentation of fire department fee schedule as per ordinance 23-690, fire safety codes and providing for a fire safety inspector. Is that a reading? Would you, Nancy? Okay, passes to Mr. LaCarrie for introduction.
Yes, the fire department would like to make a presentation this evening. On August 22nd and 23, the city council passed the second reading of ordinance 23-690 to adopt fire safety codes and the fire safety inspector. The fire department will present a proposed fee schedule based on that ordinance. These fees will generate the revenue to have a standalone fire inspector conduct inspections without impeding the fire department's emergency responses. If the council chooses to move forward, the city attorney will draft a resolution and bring forward to the council at a later meeting. I turn this over to our fire chief, fire captain.
Thank you. Right. The other one. Want to test it? Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, staff, residents. Got a couple problems. One is, I know it's a long night and we got to get out of here, but the other problem is I like to talk. The problem to that is Tom likes to talk. I don't know how I'm going to overcome those problems. The good thing is, I have a problem that I want to present to you guys, and I'm also presenting the solution. The good thing to it is, in the end, the solution that I'm proposing to you, I'm not asking for money, and I'm not asking the residents to pay for this either. So I want to start with an introduction to the problem before we get into the show, the slides just representing the fees that we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks. The problem that I currently have is currently our only option to complete fire inspections in the city is to send out the fire apparatus and the crew to the business. The crew follows that inspection process. What they do is they contact the business owner, Walmart, Hooters, whatever it may be. They contact the business owner. Hey, we're going to be there 9 o'clock to do your annual inspection. They get calls, they get diverted, that could all happen. Let's just say they don't. They show up to the business, they meet the business owner, update some of the information, who has keys to the building, blah, blah, blah. Next, we have to get a key holder to the building. So whether it be a maintenance person or the manager themselves, we have to get them there. Then we got to start the actual formal inspection process. You start the formal inspection process, and then we get a call for service. And now the fire truck has to leave. We'll be back in a little bit, and then we leave, and we go run the emergency call, whatever it is. We could be gone 30 minutes, we could be gone several hours. Whenever we clear the call, then we have to call the business back. Hi, Mr. Businessman, business owner. We cleared the call, we're on our way back. Can we meet you again? And then we had to meet them again. They got to call the maintenance building or maintenance person back with the key holder so we can continue wherever we left off. It's not uncommon for this process to repeat itself over and over on large inspections multiple times. So that's one problem that we have. The problems that we encounter after that is that it's a big burden on the crews as we're going back and forth, back and forth. It's a disheartening burden on the business owners as they're trying to conduct business and we're coming and going and we can never give them a solid time. Hey, we're going to be there at 9 o'clock because the fire truck has to go on call, so that's a big burden on the business themselves. It can lead, and I hate to even say this, but it can lead to mistakes. We're there, we're trying to rush, and then we go get a call, and then we got to come back. Where did we leave off? So that's another potential issue. And it's the most expensive piece of equipment that you and the residents own, that we're driving back and forth to do this inspection in. Again, all of this is mainly at the expense of the citizens. The common question some of you may have is, why do we need this now, Gary? Why do we need this now? Well, the answer is we always needed it. We always needed these inspection fees. Before I even came here, there was 2 administrative staff. There was a fire chief and The other position rotated names. It was a captain, it was a deputy chief, regardless. But his main objective and priorities were these big inspections, making sure they're done, staying on top of the inspections that the fire trucks were able to complete, and following through with this whole process. When Chief Fussell and Rob Gupton had left, transitions happened in the fire department, and I came in. I don't have a number two. I don't have an inspector. There's nobody else. I have to draw off of the fire truck for assistance. So that position that was there before was funded by everybody. It was a general fund position. It was an employee that was there for, 40 hours a week. The solution that I'm proposing to solve these problems is to institute the fee chart that I'm going to show you in a moment. Many agencies across the state have these fees already in place. This allows me to fund staffing with the primary focus of maintaining these and overseeing these very detailed inspections that we're required to do and businesses are required to have. Again, we already have a staff vehicle for this person to use, whether it's me taking one of the inspectors on their day off and saying, hey, you want an extra 8 hours of pay? I need you to do some inspections, or hiring one of my other staff members that are inspectors to come in and cover for some of these slots so the fire truck isn't doing all of this. These fees that we would collect would offset the manpower costs associated with me utilizing that manpower to solve this problem. So let's just take a look at the PowerPoint. Fire department in general, we're always looking at ways to try to do what we can do better and save money. I mean, on a regular basis, I want to say 3 times a year, Captain Quinn and our staff, where can we buy toilet paper and paper towels cheaper? It's just part of our everyday processes that we do. When we got together on this whole process and we looked at it, this is one of the ways that we can save money by not utilizing a fire truck for inspections, not bothering staff at businesses multiple times, and completing a nice thorough inspection that we're required to do. Florida state statute, it gives us the power to render municipal services. It mandates enforcement on us of the fire prevention code. It mandates enforcement of the life safety code. It empowers us to employ and contract with fire safety inspectors to conduct all of these inspections, which I have on staff. It empowers, and in their own verbiage, encourages us to establish and collect reasonable fees to defer the cost of such inspections. What they're saying is, we understand that we require businesses to have this inspection. We understand that. And we understand that local governments shouldn't have to pay for that, or residents shouldn't have to pay for that fire truck to go out and do something that a business is required to have. So as long as your fees are reasonable and can offset that, they encourage us to charge these fees to offset that expense that we're putting out. Florida statute continued. It is appropriate that the fees for providing fire safety inspections, plan reviews, enforcement, standby at special event coverage is commensurate with the cost of providing those services. Again, Florida statute. These fees proposed on the attached chart reflect our reasonable costs to the city for providing such services, including but not limited to application process, plan review, processing, site inspections, meetings, standbys, administrative expenses, mine and Captain Quinn's time, public hearings, the implementation part. So how would we go about doing this? Reality is, collection of said fees will take place as businesses apply for their BTR. This process is already in place. When businesses come for their annual inspections, some of you that are in the construction field understand that process. You're going for the BTR, the business license. Part of this inspection fee is part of that process. So our ability to collect the fees is already there. It enhances our service delivery as it affords a dedicated staff member to do those inspections. By implementing this fee schedule, we now encompass all services provided by fire rescue in one forward-facing document, meaning it facilitates essential resources, Like a big complicated inspection, the inspector is dedicated to that inspection. If it takes him all day, he's going to be there to get it done and get it done right. It supports the elevation of our services, meaning it relieves the fire truck of that responsibility so it can handle other stuff it needs to do. And then all of this is with no additional funding from the general fund. Those who are required to have that service pay for that service. And at the end of the day, it's a tax deduction for them anyway. So I just included, just so you know I wasn't shooting from the hip, I personally solicited Treasure Island because it's a small community, Brooksville because it's a small community, Pasco County's fees, and the city of Newport Richey. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time. There's a lot of information on here. I'm just going to show you that some of these fees are currently in place. So here's Hillsborough County's. I'm going to give you a summary at the end. I know you guys all have these in your booklets, but Hillsborough County's fees are there. And again, I'll give you a summary at the end of how they're kind of laid out. A couple of pages. And then Coral Springs, other ones were sent to me randomly. I just randomly sent out an email to any agency that's currently charging for fire inspection. Send me your list of information, and the first couple that sent me, that's who I got. That's how I wound up with Coral Springs. So their inspection fees there. Next was Brooksville, I believe. There's their fees. Brooksville Fire Rescue's fees. Theirs are on there. And again, I'll give you a summary of those, but I wanted you have in your packet time to look at these and understand that the fees that we're asking for are nominal. Treasure Island, one of the ones I recruited to ask for because they're a small community like ours. There's their list of fees. Pinellas Park was the next one. And again, theirs was kind of a simple, which I liked. Here's an interesting one. Newport Richey. The city of Newport Richey found out that what I was doing and started to question me in one of the chiefs meetings that we had, and took the same proposal, sent it to the city of Newport Richey, and last week this same exact proposal that mine mirrors Pasco County's proposal. Newport's mirrors Pasco County's proposal with additions, and it was passed unanimously last week. So they currently have the same exact schedule or fee levels that I'm proposing. So the one that you see now is null and void because it's updated and all the fees are actually higher, and they included more onto that list. So let's just get down to ours. Trying to keep it basic. What I'm proposing is a square footage one that the county has. It mirrors the county services. It makes it simple. A lot of places do nickel and dime stuff. If you have a propane tank, it's another $25. If you have this, it's another $50 and $12. And so mirroring what Pasco County did, just kept it structured, simple, and based off of square footage, the size of your building. The only thing that's added is what Pasco County had on the back was some of the special event fees. If you needed a fire truck to stand by, if you had to have a crowd safety manager, if we have a large event and we're requiring a crowd safety manager, so those fees are all included in this document, so it's one and done kind of deal. The hourly rates on those all match exactly what the county has and are basically based off of FEMA rates, which is what FEMA would pay us to send a truck. So in summary, Hillsborough County, the one that you see there is theirs is a square foot based with a bunch of nickel and dime additions. You look at Coral Springs, theirs is broken up and it's very unit based. If you have 20 units, it's this. 22 to 48 units is this. Brooksville, square foot based with nickel and dime additions. Again, if you have that propane tank, we're going to charge you more. We're going to charge you more. Treasure Island is very broken up. Pinellas Park is very simple. It's square foot based and simple, kind of like what we were looking at in the county. And I told you Newport Richey's was nickel and dimed and size based, but they turn around and copied exactly what we have. So at the end of the day, my proposal is to introduce this fire rescue fee schedule so we can charge the people that are using or the agencies that are using those services for those services and recoup some of that cost that we're incurring, and it'll match what every other business in Pasco County is currently paying. I stand for questions.
We have obviously the staff that are, I guess, certified to do fire inspections in-house already.
Correct.
Correct?
Yep, I have them on staff already.
So basically, it's just these 2 pages, the fee schedule for Port Richey.
Yeah, those very last 2 pages are the actual schedule.
Keeping it very simple.
Very simple.
I have no issue with the fee schedule. It looks fine. once again, we're just copying the county, but sometimes the county puts a lot of work in it, so that's what we do. They copy us. I would say as to whether we hire somebody for the job or we contract it out, once again, going back to the fact that we have a new city manager coming in, we defer to the new city manager decision as to how best to accomplish it.
Again, I already have them on staff.
Well, I'm just saying though, I mean, if we were looking at potentially
Growing it.
we're saying hiring somebody and this would support that person, which is kind of maybe yes, kind of maybe no, or if we hired an outside contractor to do it, I would defer to our next city manager in all matters of hiring or hiring contractors.
Approximately how, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, that's okay. But again, the fee schedule is fine. I have no problem voting for that.
Approximately at this time, because we already do these inspections, a week, how much time do you think, and I know it varies, I understand that it varies per week, per month, etc. But if you were to guess, how much time per week does somebody, or month, whichever is the best time frame for you to?
That's a hard question to answer because they're required to do a minimum of 14 hours of training every month, and then they're required to actually go out and do inspections, and they have to run calls, and they have to train new hires, and then they have to learn equipment. So the inspections are piecemealed in between all of that. So the captains may have a busy day planned, and you know what, I'm going to go do a Circle K because it's fairly quick and reasonable. It's where they try to set aside a day for what's that, Seacoast Plastics or Seaway Plastics. It's 2 city blocks. It could take weeks to complete that inspection. So it's hard to say. They try to dedicate time, and then as the building department notifies us of BTRs, we try our hardest to stick to those schedules, but it's really hard. Inspections are a matter of a couple hours from when the data is inputted. Some inspections, no matter what you do, are set several days.
So when you do this then, presently we're taking our fire truck and then we're using the staff at that point. So if you did this, would that person that does the fire inspections still be on the truck and have to come off the truck, or how? I mean, that's a staffing issue, I know, but
My goal is to have the fire truck do the smaller, easier ones, Dairy Queen, little simple inspections, and have the other inspectors, it would be for some of the part-time people that I have on staff that would come in and, hey, I need you on Tuesday and Thursday to schedule the inspections. So at least when I call the business owners and I tell them I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock, we're going to be there at 9 o'clock unless something catastrophic happens.
I can imagine it must be very difficult for the business owners for that back and forth. I can imagine that's very difficult for them.
Two questions. One, actually, one comment and question. The question is, I know many counties, some municipalities tie the fire inspection to the issuance of the BTR. You can't get the BTR until the fire especially on change of usage or new tenants. They can't occupy until the fire inspector walks through. Is that your intent with this, or?
That's happening already.
Okay.
But the problem is that sometimes it's delayed because the fire truck's running calls.
Okay.
With this, when they're pre-arranged, pre-scheduled inspections, that's when I can say, hey, Mr. McClary, I need you to come on duty tomorrow. Can you work Tuesday? I have 3 or 4 inspections lined up for you from the building department, and they can come and do it uninterrupted. Like I said, unless something catastrophic happened.
Second comment is under special events. It's a little confusing to me as to the services. It's gates. Are you inspecting gates? Just kind of clarify that a little bit, just so.
If there's a call for a fire service inspection for a gate, facility gate, there's a fee. That way, there's a fee associated with that. When you look at all the other ones, they have the same fees.
So I guess to that point, if I have a business with a gate, does that mean I get $150 plus my business, or how does that work?
Well, the gate is a separate inspection.
Okay. So if I bought a building that had a fence around it with a gate, and I had a 5,000 square foot building,
it'd be the $150 for the gate because it's a separate inspection, and then there'll be a fire safety inspection on the building itself.
Okay.
Very few have that, if any, but in the city.
That's fine.
Why is there need to do the gate to make sure, I guess it opens, or it's not a fire hazard, obviously, right?
So one of the things that is typically required is we have a wheel in. Our siren affects the gate to move back and forth. And a lot of times, some of the businesses, we barely have any that have this. but they won't keep up with that gate. And now it puts a burden on us, and we gotta constantly go out there and inspect that gate, inspect that gate, inspect that gate. And, there's no repercussion per se. I don't wanna use, it's a kind of a tough word, but they could literally say, oh, we're not gonna fix the gate, we're not gonna fix the gate, we're not gonna fix the gate. And now we're stuck bringing our fire truck there.
In your community, like, people are bad about contacting us and saying, hey, we changed our gate code, you know what I mean? We had 3 people move out, we changed our gate code. So by code now, they have to put in a siren-activated gate code, but those fail. So if those fail, we have no way to get in because we don't have the gate code, and when the siren's not working, so that's why we have to stay on top of those to make sure.
What about this traditional gate that's the padlock or something, is it?
No, they're automatic gates.
Just automatic gates is what's this?
Yep.
Very,
Harbor Point.
yeah, I don't think there's really anybody besides 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's that way in our.
And they're all very good with
But,
us.
like you guys said, looking to the future, I can't tell you what somebody's gonna want in that side.
So how is the administrative piece of this being handled? Who's collecting the fees? How the billing process?
That's when, like I said, that process is already in place. When people go to file for their BTRs, they already collect their $35 or $50 or whatever the business fee already is. So the collection process will include the building department instead of saying, okay, well, it's $35 for the BTR and it's $100 for your fire service inspection. So it's $135. It'd be one collection done. That money would be put into our line item, and that money would be used for our inspectors.
What about the yearly inspection? Is that so?
Those, the inspectors will be all part of that process, yeah.
And you'll also see that there's reinspection fees on here, because there's some major incorporations inside the city that we sometimes have to go back to 6 to 7 times. And
there's no
it's not
repercussions.
fair to the city residents that we took there 6 or 7 times. It's making multi-million dollars, inside the city.
Because they didn't fix what was originally, not because you had to.
And
So if you have to go back 6 times because you get calls, that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about, this is wrong, you didn't fix it, I go back and it's still wrong. You're talking about that kind of okay.
Still not fixed. Your initial reinspection is nothing.
Right.
We'll give you that one time.
Yeah, they make a mistake.
Right, sure.
We're gonna work with them. But the frequent offenders, it starts to get up into, the fees get progressively higher as they progressively.
I think this is a good idea.
So we don't have fees now?
No.
Right? No. So all this is,
You bear the responsibility and the burden of all that right now.
bottom line is we're not hiring new staff to do this. We're implementing fee structure, so this is positive for the city.
It's a win.
It's a win-win.
An alternate?
Yes.
Source.
First of all, I want to commend you all for, because that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, if you can do something on stormwater.
Make it work.
Appreciate it.
Motion to approve,
We just need direction to,
we just need direction.
direct me to draft a resolution.
You are
So directed.
Everyone agree?
Yes.
Done.
Okay, last item, number 14, approval of resolution number 23-14, city affordable housing inventory. Pass it to Mr. Carey for introduction.
I think that's I need to read.
Actually, she's gonna.
Oh, Nancy.
Hold on, sorry. Resolution number 23-14, a resolution of the City of Port Richey, Florida, approving a list of all real property within its jurisdiction to which the city or its dependent special district holds fee simple title and which is appropriate for use as affordable housing as required by Section 166.0451 Florida statutes as amended and providing for an effective date.
And as is in here, it really doesn't apply to us, but it's something we need to do.
And if I can keep talking, it's a new requirement of the statute. It takes effect October 1st, and it is silent on if you don't possess any of this land, what you're supposed to do. So, abundance of caution. Other cities that my firm also represents, we're conveying. Go ahead, and just put a resolution out there that you don't have any.
All right.
Motion to approve resolution number 23-14.
Second.
Bill, that's second. Motion second for discussion. Quick question. Obviously, we don't have any, which is not a great thing. And a lot of people this is kind of a hot topic. Matter of fact, we had a meeting today, and I had this question asked. As these new developments and stuff are coming in, is there not a requirement to make some of those affordable, like 20% or something? Or what's the?
I know that they just passed the governor just passed a thing where you have to start allowing more affordable housing and stuff. I don't know the full particulars of it, but I can look into it. I haven't read into the whole process.
This is only if we owned it. So if
Oh, I see.
we started buying properties,
So we could have some, it just, we don't own it.
if we,
Oh,
yeah,
I
if we own 3 or 4 homes in the city and we issued them as affordable housing, like if we wanted to do that, that would be a program that we have, but currently, right now, we have none.
Okay, I have a motion second. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public like to speak? See no hands up at the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's all council business. Anything with old business? Business is good to me. Old. Let's go look real quick here.
Sal does a pretty good job of keeping that up.
Okay. Look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Have multiple
Second.
motions adjourned. Second.
Second, third, and fourth.
Did you get the right ones?
Everyone simultaneously motion.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.